Sir, shall we start, sir? So,
Okay.
so members will be joining slowly. We shall start.
Yeah. So how many members have registered now?
Today around 50, sir. 50.
Around 50. Yeah. So if you want to wait for 5 more minutes, then I'm okay with.
Okay.
I think so far 15 have joined.
Sir, we'll start because we need to give introduction. It takes time in that. So we shall start. They'll be joining.
Yeah, I'm okay with. Yeah.
Uh, very good evening to one and all present here. I welcome all the members for today's virtual meeting, and I welcome our today's speaker, Vardhan sir, all along from Madurai for today's virtual meeting. Hearty welcome, sir. Welcome.
Yeah.
And thank you for accepting our invite in spite of your busy schedule. And Vardhan sir, he is from Madurai only. He is a chief consultant officer for a very reputed company, Aparijita, the company in Madurai. So we have a very right resource person with us today for enlightening us in the topic labor codes. And today regarding the structure, today for the first 1 hour 15 minutes, sir will be addressing on the topic amendment in labor codes, highest and possible impact. Since this is going to be a 3 hours meeting, we shall have a small break for about 10 to 15 minutes once the first half session is over, and we shall proceed with the next session. Unfortunately, due to some unavoidable reasons, our today's second half speaker, CA Hanish from Bangalore, address today. So on behalf of CA Hanish, we somehow managed to arrange the alternate speaker and eminent speaker also in the area of GST, CA Archana Jain from Delhi. So second session will be handled by CA Archana Jain. Now I request CA Jayachandran sir to give a brief introduction about our sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Madurai branch of SIRC, it's a great pleasure for me to introduce our today's speaker, Mr. K. Vardhan. Mr. K. Vardhan is a graduate in mathematics and law. He did his post-graduation in personal management and counseling. Mr. Vardhan began his career in TVS and Sons Limited in 1988, where he played an active role in its business expansion in Kerala, where he involved in the right sizing of the workforce. He then moved to Aparajita in March 2005, where he played a key role in stabilizing the flagship activity of compliance management services. Currently, he is the Chief Consultation Officer for Aparajita. Apart from this, he organized National Conclave on Industrial Relations many times. He was a visiting faculty for Symbiosis Center for Management and Human Resource Development, Pune, and Tyagaraja School of Management, Madurai. He participated in many forums as a resource person as well as moderator and facilitated various training programs and workshops. He is also associated with employer bodies like CII, EFSI, and NIPM. With this short introduction, I would like to welcome Mr. K. Varadan sir on behalf of Madurai Branch SARC. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll
Over to
just
you.
take a moment just to share screen. No.
Okay, sir. It is visible, sir.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Jay Chandran, for that introduction, and very good evening, every one of you. And thanks to the Madurai branch of SIRC of ICAI for the opportunity given, and more particularly Ms. Binayashi, who has been coordinating with me right from the beginning for this session. So this will be on labor codes. You all must be aware that the existing set of maybe a flurry of labor laws, it is getting replaced by 4 labor codes. Maybe the exercise started sometime in 2019, and the code on wage, it was passed last year itself, and the other 3 codes, it was passed in September 2020. And of course, the authorities are in the process of preparing the corresponding rules, right? Once only then this can get implemented, and it is likely that it would get implemented from April 2021. That is the idea. So without wasting much of my time, I'll just get into my presentation. And as rightly mentioned by Abhinaya, I think it will be more of highlights and the possible impact, because it will be difficult to discuss the entire provisions of all the 4 codes, maybe within the time of 1.5 hours or 2 hours. It is not possible. So what I am attempting through this session is I'll be highlighting the major changes and the possible impact, right? And of course, there could be small changes once the rules are framed and once it is getting implemented. And you must be aware that the subject labor as well as social security both fall under the concurrent list of the Indian Constitution, which means again both the central government and the various state governments will have powers to enact laws. Labor, when we say labor laws, yes, there are central laws, there are state specific laws. But whatever changes we are talking about, the labor codes about which we are talking about, it is in the central sphere only. So see, only the existing central legislations are getting subsumed into 4 labor codes. So there is no change which is planned as of now with respect to the state laws regarding the labor or the social security. So that is one main point. And of course, the rules, both the central rules, which are to be framed by the central government, and the various state rules. I think all the governments are in the process of preparing the rules, and it is. I think the central government was ambitious in making these codes to come into force from December 2020, but I think that could be a bit difficult. But of course, they are pushing the labor secretaries of various states to prepare the central state rules as well. So it is likely that both the central rules as well as the various state rules would get completed within next 2 to 3 months, so that the codes can be implemented from April 2021. That is the idea as of now. So again, what is the rationale behind these codes. Why labor codes today? I think this is not a new thing. In fact, the industries have been asking for major reforms with respect to labor and social security right from 1991 when the economy was opened. Right, I think under PV Narasimha Rao's government, I think the liberalization, privatization, globalization that happened. So the economic reforms that happened in 1991, since that time onwards, in fact, the industries have been asking for corresponding labor reforms, right? But there was no much movement. During Vajpayee government's time, maybe from 1999 to 2004, in fact, the Second National Commission on Labor, it was formed, and after doing a thorough study, they submitted a report, and that report was submitted in 2002, if I am right. And they suggested to summarize the existing set of central labor legislations into 5 codes. One on industrial relations, second one on wages, third one on social security, fourth one on safety, and fifth one on welfare and working conditions. So that was the suggestion given by 2002. But unfortunately, in 2004, the political scenario changed. And for the next 10 years, absolutely there was no movement on this score. So again, from 2014 onwards, once the present central government came into being as an establishment at the center, I think a push was given for coming up with the labor reforms. And again, from that time onwards, a lot of changes are happening. The main idea is to amalgamate, simplify, and rationalize the existing set of labor legislations. You must be aware, people are talking about that there are 44 central legislations, right? And each state will have maybe starting from 3 to 7 legislations will be there on the labor domain for each state. So around 36, 37 states we have, including the union territories. So even if we have it as 35, and on an average 5 legislations per state, 35 into 5, that becomes 175. So 175 plus 45 central legislations. Again, I think that comes to 220. And this will not just stop with this. Each legislation will have set of rules. So take, for example, the Factories Act. The Factories Act will have rules enacted by various states. So the central, that is a central legislation, and rules have been framed by all the state governments. So Factories Act along with Tamil Nadu rules, Factories Act along with Karnataka rules, Factories Act along with Delhi rules. So that is how it is to be looked into. So to understand the application, I think number of rules itself, the number will go beyond 400 or 500. So acts, legislations, and the rules put together, I think there will be more than 650 laws on labor domain itself. That is the maybe the volume we have currently. And so the idea, the main idea is to amalgamate these legislations, but of course not in the state sphere, only in the central sphere. Maybe the first step is that, and to rationalize, right? Again, industries are feeling that it is a bit difficult to implement whatever the provisions are given under these legislations, and there are multiplicity of definitions, right? The same terminology, take for example salary or wage. The same terminology is defined under various legislation. It is there under Payment of Wages Act. It is there under Minimum Wages Act. It is there under Payment of Bonus Act. And each legislation defines the term wage in a different fashion. Similarly, state to state, again, the definition will vary. So maybe as far as possible to make it uniform, to remove the multiplicity of the definitions. And also there are multiple authorities who have got jurisdiction in enforcing these legislations. We have PF department, separate, Employees Provident Fund Organization. We have ESI, Employees State Insurance Corporation. We have State Labor Department. We have Central Labor Department. And I think, and so on and so forth. So multiple authorities are also there. So the idea behind the present labor codes is amalgamation, simplification, rationalization, to remove the multiplicity of definitions, to remove the multiplicity of authorities, and it should be easy for the industries to implement the provisions. That is the idea. And of course, more importantly, now I think the government is planning to leverage on technology. I think people call it as now 4.0, version 4.0. I think without technology, future it may not be possible. So online processing, electronic maintenance of records, all those are now getting permitted, and flexible dynamic factors are there. In fact, for example, working hours. If you take a factory, so it is governed by the Factories Act, which is a central legislation. But the working hours fixed. It is applicable across India for all factories, right? Now, but that is a dynamic factor. So the powers are given to the appropriate governments, which means various state governments, to fix the working hours in a factory to suit to their needs, maybe according to their geography. It could be it could vary, right? So that is the idea. Not only that, even for salary ceiling for eligibility under bonus, or salary ceiling for calculation under bonus, right? Again, these are all now powers are given to the appropriate governments. And again, when we use technology, definitely that should bring transparency and accountability. So uniformity must be there, and consistency must be there, and it could also prevent some stakeholders taking some undue advantage. That is the idea. And ultimately, it is for setting up of more enterprises. So this simplification, they should bring in more people to enter into business, so that more enterprises could come into existence in our country, and as a result, that would create more employment opportunities. So more businesses, more employment opportunities. Those are all the major ultimate aim, purpose of this labor codes. And of course, when it comes to the question of penalty, I think it is now getting multifold. In fact, if the current penalty is 5,000, I think that is going up to 50,000 or 1 lakh. That is all. But of course, at the same time, employers are given with the facility of compounding of offense. But that is only for the first step. If there is some deviation for the first time, yes, they can be permitted for compounding of offenses. But that is by way of paying 50% of the maximum punishment prescribed. Only in case where the fine is prescribed, where the imprisonment is prescribed, I think compounding of offense is not possible. So in a situation where fine alone is prescribed, I think the maximum, out of the maximum amount, 50% is to be paid to the special officer who is yet to be appointed, so that they can come out. So instead of undergoing a cumbersome process. So these are all the reasons, purposes, or maybe the rationale behind the current labor codes which are now coming in. And I think in our screens, you may be seeing a list of central legislation. It is completely central legislations. No state law is mentioned here. Total, it is coming to 47, right? You may be hearing more people saying that there are 44 central legislations, but after a little bit of research, I think I found that there are 47 legislations. But of the 47, from 37 to 47, I think I have put it in red font, right? 11 legislations have been already repealed. So out of these 47, only the first 36 are now in vogue, I think, in operations. And even out of the 36, this current 29 legislations that are getting subsumed into 4 codes. It is not the entire 44 central legislations which are getting consolidated into 4 codes, but it is only the 29 legislations which you are seeing in your screens now, right? The code on wages, it has 4 laws. The code on industrial relations, it has 3. So 4 plus 3, 7. And the code on social security has 9. So 7 plus 9, 16. Then the occupational safety, health and working conditions code. It has 13 legislations. So 16 plus 13, total 29. So these are all the 29 existing legislations which are getting subsumed into 4 labor codes. Let us see what are how it is. And so the status is, as I said in the beginning, code on wages that was passed in the parliament, in both the houses of the parliament, and the president's assent was also got as early in 8th August 2019, right? As far as the other 3 codes, occupational safety, health and working conditions code, industrial relations code, and code on social security, all these 3 codes, again, it was passed and president's assent obtained on exactly on 28th September 2020, right? So just 2 months back, right? So this is the current status. Yes, the rules are being worked out by both the central government as well as various state governments. Once that is done, then we can expect the date of commencement of these codes. Now, when we say code on wages 2019, right? So these are all the 4 legislations: the existing Minimum Wages Act 1948, the Payment of Wages Act 1936, the Payment of Bonus Act 1965, and the Equal Remuneration 1976. These are all the 4 legislations now getting subsumed into one code called Code on Wages 2019. So four legislations here in this code, under this code. Then Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code 2020. You can see in your screens again, starting from the Factories Act up to Cine Workers and Cinema Theatre Workers Act. Factories Act, Mines Act, Contract Labor Act, ISMW Act, Plantation Labor, BOCW Act, Dock Workers Act, Sales Promotion Employees Act, Motor Transport Workers Act, Working Journalists Act, again 2 acts there. Then BD and Cigar Workers Act, then Cine Workers Act. These are all the 13 legislations. These would normally deal with the working conditions, right? So these 13 legislations are getting subsumed into one code called Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code. So 4 plus 13, 17. Then the third one is Code on Social Security. Again, it contains the Employees Compensation Act, the erstwhile Workmen Compensation Act, the Employees State Insurance Act, ESI, then Employees Provident Fund Miscellaneous Provisions Act, PF, then Employment Extensions Act, Maternity Benefit Act, Payment of Gratuity, Cine Workers Welfare, BOCW Welfare, and Unorganized Workers Social Security. These are all 9 legislations, again, which are getting subsumed into Code on Social Security, right? So 3 plus 13 plus 9. So which means 16 plus 9, 26 here. 4 plus 13 plus 9. Total 26. And the last code is Industrial Relations Code, where we have 3 existing legislation: the Trade Unions Act, the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, and the Industrial Disputes Act. You may be aware, again, the Industrial Dispute Act is considered to be the backbone of entire set of labor legislations. Now that is becoming a part of Industrial Relations Code. So this is how the current 29 legislations are made into just 4 labor codes. Yeah, again, this is more for, again, a statistics purpose. You have Code on Wages, Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code, IR Code, and Code on Social Security. If you look at the number of sections, right, currently, when we say Code on Wages, 4 legislations put together: minimum wages, payment of bonus, and equal remuneration. All the 4 legislations put together, the number of sections, it is coming to 115. Right, but as per the code, the number of sections is only 69. So the number of sections is coming down. Similarly, rules, the central rules I have taken, for example, central rules under Minimum Wages Act, central rules under Payment of Wages, central rules and Payment of Bonus, then central rules under Equal Remuneration Act. So the number of rules currently, it is 67. That is coming down to 58 as per the draft rules issued under Code on Wages. It is only draft, it is not yet passed. Right, and when it comes to the question of number of terms defined, it is 46. All the 4 legislations put together. Now I think under Code on Wages, it is just 26. So instead of 46, the number of terminologies defined is coming down to 26. And other transactional activities, the number of returns to be submitted, it is coming down from 3 to 1. The number of statutory registers to be maintained, it is coming down from 14 to 3. And the number of abstracts to be displayed, it is coming down from 2 to 1. And the number of statutory notices to be displayed, it is again coming down from 2 to 1. So I think you can very well see the number is coming down, right? So volume is getting reduced, except in case of IR code. I think I have encircled in red color. The number of sections is getting increased. It is going up from 88 to 104. So except that, otherwise, I think whether the number of sections or the number of rules or the number of legislations or the number of transactional activities, it is clearly coming down, right? So again, reduction is the idea. So easiness in doing the business, that is the purpose. Now I move on. Right. Okay. So before I get into the highlights of the codes, maybe I would like to spend some time on the definition of the term wages, right? Because I think it is undergoing a major change, and the definition for the term wages, it is going to be uniform for all the codes. So it is not only for Code on Wages, it is for all the codes. Interestingly, this particular definition contains all the 5 parts. It has substantive part, it has inclusive part, it has exclusion part, it has provisos, it has explanation also, right? So when we say substantive part, all remuneration, whether expressed by way of salaries or allowances or otherwise, and when it is mentioned in the when it is expressed in terms of money or capable of being so expressed, as per the terms of employment, which means as per the contract of employment, as per the appointment order. So that would be considered as salary. Very simple. And that very specifically includes basic DNS allowance and retaining allowance. Again, when we say retaining allowance may not be applicable, that particular component may not be applicable for all the industries, but it is more with reference to the seasonal industries, right? The seasonal people in the seasonal industries, in fact, they would make attempt to retain the employees during the non-season period, right? So during that period, non-season period, so they will not come for work, but during that non-season period, they will be paid some amount so that they are retained, so that they can be asked to come for work during the next season, right? So that amount is called retaining allowance. So it may not be applicable for the perennial industries. It is only for seasonal industries. And the exclusion part, yes, you can see right from class A to class K, right? So almost 11 items are very specifically excluded from the definition of the term wages or salary. Any bonus payable under any law, right? But if some component is named as bonus and it is paid as per the contract of employment, when it becomes part of salary, then that should be included, right? What is referred here is any bonus payable under any law, which means take for example the Payment of Bonus Act. So it is purely based on the available and allocable surplus, so profit and loss of that particular company. But of course there is minimum which is prescribed 8.33 and the maximum which is prescribed which is 20%, right, currently. And so that is very clearly excluded from the definition of the term salary. But some component is just named as bonus, and if it is paid on monthly basis, then I think that is to be considered as wages. And similarly, class B, the value of any house accommodation or any other amenities provided by the employer, maybe light or water or any other facilities provided by the employer, and if some notional amount could be fixed for that. But if it is very specifically excluded by way of notification that this would not be considered as wages, then those amounts will be excluded from the definition of the term wage or salary, right? Otherwise it is to be included again. And class C is very specifically any contribution paid by the employer to any pension or provident fund, right? So again, this is not considered. Definitely when the establishment is registered under PF and when a particular employee is covered under PF, then I think the employer has to make some amount as PF contribution in respect of that employee. So that contribution, it will not be treated as salary. It is clearly excluded, but I have mentioned it in bold and I have also underlined it. I'll come back to that because after going to the next slide, after explaining that, then I'll come back here for explanation, further explanation. And with respect to classes D, F, G and H, which are mentioned in red font, D, F, G and H. These are all four components, yes, clearly excluded, but excluded only for the purposes of minimum wages and payment of bonus. I repeat, these four components are excluded only for the purposes of minimum wages and payment of bonus, but it is not excluded for payment of wages purpose and equal remuneration purpose, because you are aware that under code on wages there are four existing legislations which are getting subsumed, right? Payment of wages, equal remuneration, minimum wages and payment of bonus. So only for the minimum wages and payment of bonus, these four components are getting excluded from the definition of the term salary. Otherwise it is to be treated as salary for the purposes of payment of wages and equal remuneration. Now I move on. So in the proviso, again I would like to draw your attention to the underlined portion. If payments made by the employer to the employee under classes A to I think the classes A to I, it is under the exclusion part, right? If it exceeds 1/2, which means if it goes beyond 50%, then that excess amount would be automatically treated as wages. So the major change which is brought about is now I think the exclusion portion from the definition of the term salary cannot go beyond 50%. Currently, we all know, even if the monthly salary of a person is, say, for example, 1 lakh, almost 80,000 to 90,000, I think they are paying it some in maybe by way of allowances, right? Only 10,000, it is treated as basic. So only 10,000 is considered for calculation either under PF or for calculating bonus or for gratuity. So other things, nine components, 9 allowances, 9 into 10,000, 90,000, it is getting excluded. Currently, there is no cap, right? There is no ceiling, either for the inclusion part of the wages or for the exclusion part of the wages. But under the code, under the definition of the term salary, I think there is a cap which is fixed as 50% for the exclusion portion. Even if the exclusion components, if it goes beyond 50%, then that excess of 50% will automatically be treated as salary. So it cannot go be. I think this is the major change. Now I'll go back to the previous slide. I think class C, because it very clearly says this proviso, the payments made by the employer to the employee under classes A to I. So it includes class C also, which is contribution towards PF. Right. So if that is included, then I think the working may not be easy for the employers, because after that, then there will be some amount of PF contribution which would be left, on which again the employer may be required to pay PF contribution. So it would be like PF on PF contributions. So if in the current form, if this code is implemented, this is one point where the employers could encounter some problem in working, right? Otherwise, I think it should be fine. And with respect to class J, any gratuity payable on termination, it is very clearly excluded, right? Currently, if we go through the definition of the term salary under the Payment of Wages Act, there is exclusion part, there is inclusion part. And some gratuity is mentioned under the inclusion part, some gratuity is mentioned on the exclusion part also, right? So there is a confusion now whether the gratuity paid under the Payment of Gratuity Act, it is to be treated as wages or not, right? Position is different in Tamil Nadu because of the judgment given by Madras High Court in Madras Fertilizers case, whereas the position is completely different in other states because there are contra judgments, right? But now through this definition, it is very clear gratuity is coming under only the exclusion part. So it is very clearly excluded. There is no confusion at all. Similarly, any retrenchment compensation in case of persons who are retrenched from services, I think we know that we will be paying, employer will be paying the compensation at the rate of 15 days wages for every completed year of service. That is considered as retrenchment compensation. That is also very clearly excluded. J and K, absolutely no issues, very clearly excluded. Only the classes, payments made towards the components mentioned in classes A to I. If it goes beyond 50%, then the excess amount would automatically be treated as wages, which means out of the monthly gross salary of an individual, at least 50% of the amount shall be treated as wages for any purpose, be it ESI, be it PF, be it bonus, be it gratuity, etc., etc., whatever it is. So that is the major change. Maybe let me take some more slides so that I can explain it in by way of some examples. Again, there are two key terms under the definition of the term wage. So one is remuneration, another one is wages. So when we say remuneration, it will include substantive part, the inclusion part, and the exclusion part. So whatever components mentioned in all these three parts, all put together, it will be considered as remuneration. And when we say wages, it is remuneration minus exclusion part. Again, when we say exclusion part, it is the payments made from the classes A to I. So that should give the wages. So both are key terms, both remuneration and wages under the new definition. Now, I think this is one example with very simple salary structure deriving the remuneration. So the employer must be aware how to determine the quantum of remuneration or the quantum of wages, right? So this is just again for example only I've given. basic day earners allowance, house rent allowance, conveyance allowance, and commission. Right. So again, basic is 5,000, and the rest of the components I have just put it as 2,500 each. So the total monthly gross, it comes to 15,000. It is very clear, very simple structure. Then PF employers contribution. So 12% on basic and DA. That works out to 900. So if that is added, then the total comes to 15,900, which I have mentioned it as gross 2. Now, as I said in the beginning, there are two key terms. One is remuneration, then wages. So if we want to determine the wages quantum, we have to determine the remuneration in the first place. Now the question arises as to, in the current example, which is the remuneration, whether it is monthly gross 1, 15,000, that should be considered as wages, remuneration, or the 15,900 monthly gross 2, that is to be treated as remuneration. I think this is where the confusion lies, right? So unless and otherwise some clarity is given by the authority concerned or by way of notification by government itself, I think before the code is getting implemented, it could be difficult for the employers to maybe to go ahead with 100% right compliance, right? Maybe on your right side again. So again, what is the total remuneration? Should it be 15,000, that is monthly gross 1, or should it be 15,900 monthly gross 2? That is the moot question. Again, assuming that it is gross 1, right? So again, then 50% of gross 1 will become 7,500. And the sum of excluded components, when we say excluded components, in the given example, HRA is excluded, conveyance allowance is excluded, commission is excluded. So all the three put together, 7,500. So exactly it comes to 50%, right? So it is not going beyond 50%. So excluded components, the total quantum of the excluded components, it does not go beyond 50%. So this is in order. This particular structure is in order if we consider monthly gross 1 as the remuneration, total remuneration. So the remuneration is 15,000, whereas the wages will be only 7,500, because only basic and DA they are included in the definition of the term wages. Other three are excluded, right? So wages quantum will be 7,500. So remuneration is 15,000. Wages portion will be 7,500. Now, assuming that gross 2 is the remuneration, then I think 15,900 is the remuneration part. Then 50%, that works out to 7,950, right? But again, inclusion portion alone, basic plus DA, it is coming to 7,500, which is less than 50%. That is less than 7,950. On the other hand, the excluded components, 2,500 plus 2,500 plus 2,500 plus 900. So that total comes to again 8,400, right? So which is beyond 50%, right? That is beyond 7,950, which means it is 450 rupees. It is excess. So automatically, as per the new definition, this 450 will be added to 7,500, and that will be treated as wages, right? But I think whether it is should we consider gross 1 in the given example, or should we consider gross 2 as remuneration? That is the moot question. I think some clarity is required before the code gets implemented. Otherwise, there could be some difficulty, right? Now I move on. I think this is the moot point I was just quoting, because if we go ahead with the definition of the term salary in the current form, whatever is suggested under the code, only in this, under this point, there could be some difficulty for the employers. Now I move on with some more examples. This is very specific to minimum wages. Again, the structure contains only three components: basic, day earners allowance, and HRA. And 6,000 plus 3,000 plus 3,000, the total comes to 12,000, right? As per the current minimum wages act. So the wages will be treated as, because all these three components would be included under the current minimum wages act, I am saying. So entire 12,000 will be considered as wages. And assumption here I have made is minimum wages is 10,000 for this person, right? So 12,000 is more than 10,000. So which means it is more than the minimum rate of wages prescribed. So this is in order. So we can say that this company is complying with the provisions of the minimum wages act. But on the other hand, if we apply the definition of the term wages as mentioned under the code, now HRA is excluded here under the new definition. which means we can consider only 6,000 plus 3,000 basic and DA as wages, which means 9,000. 9,000 is less than 10,000, which is the minimum rates of wages, right? So this structure may not be considered a right one if the new definition is applied. So this is the difference in position when the new definition is getting implemented. Let us be aware of this. And with respect to bonus, again, simple structure, basic, DA, HRA, conveyance allowance, and commission. Currently, we will be working out bonus payment only on basic and DA, which is 14,000, right? So the wages for the purpose of bonus will be 14,000, but of course, for calculation purpose, we will restrict it to 7,000. But if we apply the new definition, right, 14,000 is the monthly gross comes to 29,000. But 14,000, when we say 14,000, it is less than 50% of the monthly gross. That is less than 14,500, because the excluded components, HRA, conveyance allowance, and commission, that comes to 15,000. So that is exceeding the 50% of the monthly gross. So, so in this situation, the deemed wages would be 14,500, because the excess 500 would be automatically deemed as wages as per the new definition. But of course, since there is a ceiling for working the bonus, you can restrict the working for 7,000 or minimum rates of wages, whichever is higher, right? That is there. But the quantum of wage could vary. So that is the point here. Again, PF, under PF, the same position, basic, DA, HRA, conveyance, and commission, 12,000, 4,000, and the rest components, 6,000, 6,000, 6,000. The monthly gross comes to 34,000, right? So the exclusion portion comes to 18,000, which means basic and DA, it is coming only to 16,000. So when we say 16,000, it is less than 50% of the monthly gross, right? I think deemed wages here, as per the new definition, would be 17,000, right? Of course, we have a ceiling of 15,000 for PF, so we can restrict the contributions to 15,000. But some companies, they pay it on the actual wages. But if they want to pay, currently they may be paying on 16,000. But once the code is getting implemented, then I think they need to pay contributions on entire 17,000, not on 16,000, right? Because at least 50% should be treated as wages, even for PF purposes. Then ESI. For ESI, I think I have two examples, sample 1 and sample 2. Yes, again, under sample 1, basic, DA, and HRA, only 3 components, 12,000 plus 6,000 plus 6,000, the total comes to 24,000. So when we say 24,000, as per the current definition of the term wages under section 222 of the ESI Act, I think the total wage would be the entire 24,000, which means this is going beyond 21,000, which is the ceiling. So this person need not be covered under ESI at all, right? So this person will not be covered under ESI because he is drawing a salary which is above 21,000 per month, right? But when we apply the new definition, HRA is excluded. So under the as per the new definition, the wages portion could work out to only 18,000. That is basic and DA alone. Then I think this person will become, I think he is to be covered under ESI, and ESI contributions in respect of that person is to be made. So I think the same structure, clearly it changes the position because of the new definition, right? On the other right hand side, extreme right, the sample 2, again basic 8,000, DA 4,000, and HRA 4,000. This total comes to 16,000, right? So which means it is less than 21,000. So the person is to be covered under the current ESI Act, I am saying. So for the entire 16,000, the contributions are to be made. On the other hand, if we apply the new definition under the code, HRA is excluded. So the wages portion will work out to only 12,000. So here also the person is to be covered under ESI, but contributions will be made only on 12,000, not on 16,000, right? So this is advantage. So if we take sample 1, that is not advantageous to the employers. But when we say sample 2, then that is advantageous to the employer. So depending upon the situation, I think the position will differ because of the change in definition of the term wages. And finally, under gratuity, again, basic 12,000, DA 4,000, HRA 6,000, conveyance 6,000, and commission 6,000. The total comes to 34,000, and the 50% works out to 17,000. But basic and DA alone comes to 16,000 only, which is less than 17,000. So the deemed wages would be 17,000, right? So normally in the current situation, we'll be calculating gratuity only on basic and DA, that is 16,000, right? The HRA, conveyance and commission will get excluded. But as per the new definition, if the same structure continues, then I think gratuity is to be calculated on 17,000, not on 16,000. So in that fashion, I think the change is brought about. So I think I just thought I could explain, take some time before I get into the highlights to explain the definition of the term wages as well as its possible implications. I think you would now understand how the definition is changed and what could be the implication. Then I think we'll move on to other points now. And I think, as I said, a cap is fixed now for the excluded components. Currently, it is not there. Many companies, 75% of the monthly wage will be excluded portion, allowances. 80%, yes, there is no norm here today, as on today, right? But I think now under the code, I think a cap is fixed and the excluded portion cannot go beyond 50%. And gratuity, as I said, it is very clearly excluded. It will not be considered as wages at all, right? So once the new definition is implemented, then I think the definition, the judgment given by the Madras High Court under Madras Fertilizers case, holding gratuity to be wages, I think that will get nullified, in fact. And if in a company, if 50% of the monthly salary is maybe mentioned under the excluded portions, then the remaining 50%, that should be equivalent to the minimum wages prescribed, right? So maybe in some company, if 60% works out to the exact wages, only 40% is the excluded portion, then the whatever quantum coming, maybe when we calculate the 60%, the minimum rate of wages should be equivalent to that 60% of the monthly salary. That is how it is to be seen now, because currently the position is changed. Currently it is entire monthly gross, right? To calculate whether the company is complying with the provisions of the Minimum Wages Act or not. And for calculating the maternity benefits under the Maternity Benefit Act, and for calculating the compensation under the Employees Compensation Act, we would consider the monthly gross salary, right? But if a company has some 50% as exclusion portion, then I think they need not consider calculation for maternity benefit and compensation on the entire 100%, but it is sufficient if they consider only 50%. Maybe for the purpose of maternity benefit or for the purpose of calculating the compensation, the amount could come down, right? It is possible. And there are going to be two concepts. One is floor wages, another one is minimum wages. See, even today we have a concept called national floor level minimum wages, but I think central government is issuing notification quoting the national floor level minimum wage, right, every year, right? But that does not have statutory force. It need not be followed, right? But that remains as a guideline. That's it. It is not a statutory mandate for any company to follow it, except in Pondicherry, because based on this notification, Pondicherry government is issuing a further notification and making it a statutory mandate to the industries, right, operating in their area, right? But otherwise, it does not have a statutory mandate. Now, instead of national floor level minimum wage, it will sorry, it will be called as floor wages, mere floor wages, and it will be fixed by the central government. So central government will continue to fix floor wage, and the minimum wages, the state governments will continue to fix the minimum wage. The appropriate governments, they will continue to fix the minimum wages. The catch here is the minimum rates of wages cannot go below the floor rate. Again, I repeat, there are two concepts. One is floor wage, another one is minimum wage. Floor wage will be fixed by central government. Minimum wage will be fixed by the appropriate governments, but minimum wage cannot go below the floor wage fixed, right? And floor wage need not be one quantum across India. It can vary from geography to geography. That is also possible, right? And full and final settlement. Yes, we all know if a person's services are terminated, and the full and final settlement is to be made within 2 working days, as per the provisions of the Payment of Wages Act. Even today, that is the position, but that will not be applicable for resignation cases, right? But under the code, for resignation cases also, the settlement is to be made within 2 working days, right? So maybe the employers may have to evolve a proper maybe a separation process with respect to resignation also. Otherwise, it may not be possible. And again, you may be aware that for industries which engage less than 1,000 workers, the salary is to be paid within 7th day of the subsequent month. Normally, one calendar month will be considered as wage period. So after the end of the wage period, within 7 days, the salary is to be paid in industrial establishments which engage less than 1,000 workers. If there are 1,000 or more workers, then they can go up to 10 days. So there are two options, either 7 days or 10 days. Now that 10 days option is getting removed. So irrespective of whether the industrial establishment is engaging less than 1,000 or 1,000 or more than 1,000 workers, salary is to be paid within 7 days. There is no option for the employers now. So within 7 days, it is to be paid. And contractor's payment shall be ensured by the company before the contractor makes the payment of wages to his employees. Now, I think it remains independent, irrespective of whether the principal employer is paying the consideration to the contractor or not. The contractor is expected to pay the salary to his workers within 7 days or 10 days as applicable, right? That is the situation. But now I think clearly the code says the principal employer has to release the monthly consideration to the contractor in the first place. Out of that consideration, the salary is to be paid by the contractor to his workers within 7 days. So that is how it is to be. I think the idea of contractor engagement is also that only, but I think over the days, the practice has changed. Now I move on. So again, these are all other changes with respect to wages. Minimum wages, currently we all know, if we go through the act, the provisions of the Act, Minimum Wages Act, there is a schedule attached to the Act. Only for those scheduled employments, the Minimum Wages Act will be applicable. So it is not applicable to all the industries. But now, as per the code, it is made applicable to all industries. No restriction, right? That is number one. And it will be applicable to all employees also, including managers, right? But of course, for a specific class of employment, the minimum rate of wages should have been prescribed. Otherwise, it is not possible, right? That is there. But once the code is implemented, then the Minimum Wages Act, that is minimum wages part of the code on wages, it will be applicable to all industries, all employees. And again, you may be aware under section 1(6) of the current Payment of Wages Act, those people who are drawing more than 24,000 per month as salary, they are excluded from the purview of the Act, right? Now that ceiling is getting removed, which means all the persons will come under the purview of Payment of Wages Act or Payment of Wages portion under the code on wages, right? So there is going to be no ceiling. So irrespective of whether a person is getting a salary of 1 lakh or 2 lakhs or 3 lakhs per month, I think they will be covered under Payment of Wages Act. And full and final settlement, we discussed, it is to be made within 2 days, even in resignation cases. And the monthly salary, it is to be paid within 7 days. We discussed on that. And bonus, it will be applicable if 20 or more persons are employed in an accounting year. There is one catch here. Even today, the threshold limit is 20. If there are 20 or more persons are employed, then the Payment of Bonus Act will be applicable. And subsequently, if the threshold limit falls below 20, the Act will continue to apply. That is the provision very clear currently under the Payment of Bonus Act. But in the code, that is missing. I'm not very sure whether that is intended or there is some error, because it very clearly says in every accounting year, the company should have employed at least 20 persons, at least for a day, right? So it appears, if we strictly go through the provisions, I think every accounting year we may have to check, that company has to check whether the Payment of Bonus portion will be applicable to them or not. So for one accounting year, it may be applicable. For the next accounting year, it may not be applicable. That possibility is there. Again, I'm not very sure. Something is missed out, or this is what is intended. I'm not very sure. Then salary ceiling for eligibility and calculation under bonus, right? We all know that for an employee to become eligible for payment of bonus, he should be drawing a salary of less than 21,000 per month, right? But of course, for calculation purpose, it will be restricted to 7,000 rupees or minimum rates of wages, whichever is higher, as per current section 12 of the Payment of Bonus Act, right? Now, I think, and this is common for all industries across the country, right? But now I think the powers are given to the appropriate government to fix salary, both for eligibility and also for calculation. So it could vary from one state to another state. We may have to wait for the notification from the respective appropriate governments. Then contractors payment we discussed shall be ensured by the company before the contractor makes the payment of wages to his employees, to his workers. I move on. Now I think we have come to occupational safety, health and working conditions code. And I think there are 13 legislations getting subsumed under this code. But this particular slide, it is about contract labor very specifically. The major change here is again we know if there are 20 or more contract workers, then the Contract Labor Regulation Abolition Act 1970 will be applicable to the establishment as well as to the contractor, right? That threshold limit of 20 is now going up to 50. So chapter concerning the contract labor shall apply only if 50 or more contract labor are employed. So I think this may be favorable for the MSMEs, particularly employers. Then contract labor definition, irrespective of whether the contractor engages persons specifically to perform the obligations arising out of the contract he entered into with the principal employer, or even if he made carry out the obligation by engaging his own workers. Both the classes of employees are treated as contract workers today, right? But under the code, I think very clearly the regular employees of the contractor are excluded from the definition of the term contract labor, right? And of course it specifically includes interstate migrant. We all know even today when we say interstate migrant workmen, they are to be engaged through a contractor as per the current Interstate Migrant Workers Act. But code, there is a difference. Even if a person is directly employed by the employer, but if the person is from other state, then I think he will be treated as ISMW. This is a new development because of the experience we had during the pandemic, because the companies did not have proper data with respect to the interstate migrant workers. I think we all saw that in the news. This is a recent development, and because of that, I think they have changed the draft now. So earlier, only the contract workers, if they are hired in one state to work in the other state, only they were considered as interstate migrant workers. Now it is not necessarily those people who are engaged through a contractor, even if the workers engaged directly by the principal employer, if they are from other state, they also will be treated as interstate migrant workers. But if they are drawing a salary of more than 18,000, they are excluded. So only those persons who are drawing less than 18,000, they will be treated as interstate migrant workers. Otherwise, whether it is engaged directly or engaged through a contractor, if they are drawing more than 18,000, they will get excluded, right? Then the definition for the term core activity. So what is core activity? There is maybe a big element of subjectivity is attached to that. There is no clarity. So because the authorities used to say that the contract workers cannot be engaged for performing core activity of a company, right? But what is a core activity? It is not there. But under the code, now the definition is given. It is defined, right? So I think currently in Andhra Pradesh alone, I think they have defined the term core activity. Similar to that, I think they have now come up with the definition under the code. So that I think they have listed out certain activities like dispatch activity or security services or housekeeping activity. These are all activities which are considered non-core, right? So if the company is engaged in a different business activity, right? If the company itself is into this kind of business, if it is a security agency company, then I think security services will be considered as core activity for that company. But if it is otherwise, I think these kind of activities are considered as non-core, and for these activities, the contract workers can be engaged. I think now it is very clear. The core activity is defined, and for core activity, contract workers cannot be engaged. If it is non-core, then it is possible for the principal employers to engage contract workers. And contractors, if they are operating in more than one state, I think they can now have common license. So provision is coming through Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code under section 119, new code, right? So it is not necessary that they have to take license separately. they can have one common license. How it is to be done, I think we have to wait for the rules to understand the procedure. And the contract labor chapter applies to manpower supply contract. I think again there is one error. The definition under section 2 of the code, it clearly includes both job contractor as well as manpower supply contractor. Similarly, section 47, which prescribes license for the contractors, it prescribes license for both job contractors as well as manpower supply contractors. But on the other hand, if we go through this section 45, which talks about the applicability, it clearly says it will be applicable only to manpower supply contractor. Again, I am not very sure, but it cannot be the case. It should be equally applicable to job contractors also. I think, again, I am not very sure whether something is missed out. Is it an error or this is what is intended? I think they should have missed it out. And direct liability for principal employers for the provisions of various amenities. Currently, as per section 16 of the Contract Labor Regulation Abolition Act, the amenities, right from drinking water, right, washing rooms, everything, it is to be provided by the contractor. Only if the contractor fails, liability will go to the principal employer as per section 16 of the current Contract Labor Act, right? But now, as per the code, the liability is directly latched on the principal employers. So the liability will not be with the contractor anymore. It will be with the principal employers. Now, I think occupational safety, health and working conditions code with respect to specifically interstate migrant workers. ISMW means interstate migrant workers. Now, if there are 5 or more interstate migrant workers, only for those establishments, the act will be applicable. The current Interstate Migrant Workers Act. Now, that threshold limit is going up from 5 to 10, right? Then, in case of fatal accident to any interstate migrant worker, it is to be reported to the authority in the destination state, to the authority in the home state, and then to the next of kith and kin of the worker concerned, right? So all these are going to be the formalities or the activities to be carried out in case if the interstate migrant worker meets up with fatal accident or serious bodily injury. And there must be one toll-free helpline should be available for the interstate migrant workers so that they can contact their people whenever they want to do. It is to be provided by the appropriate government again, and the appropriate government may provide for their further studies of interstate migrant workers in such manner as may be prescribed by the government. We have to wait for the rules on that score. So these are all certain facilities to be extended to the interstate migrant workers based on our recent experience during COVID-19. And again, the occupational safety, health and working conditions code with specific reference to factories, right? Now we know if in a particular premises, a manufacturing process is carried on, and if it is carried on with the aid of power, then there must be at least 10 workers to that place to be called as a factory. If the manufacturing process is carried on without the aid of power, assume manually if it is done, manufacturing process, then there must be at least 20 persons. So it is either 10 or 20, right? That threshold limit of 10 or 20 is now increased to 20 or 40. So if the manufacturing process is carried out with the aid of power, then there must be at least 20 persons. Similarly, if it is carried out without the aid of power, then there must be at least 40 workers. Only then that place will be considered as factory. So again, this would favor the employers, particularly the employers in MSME sector. Then night shift. Currently, as per section 66(1)(b) of the Factories Act, I think it puts a bar to engage women during night shift, right? It is not possible. But in Tamil Nadu alone, it can be done, because in R. Vasanta's case, again, the Madras High Court very clearly said that particular section is unconstitutional. So that should be equally applicable to women also. So currently, even in factories in Tamil Nadu, even today, we can engage women workers during night time, right? But it is not possible in other states. But as per the code, now that section is getting removed, so women workers can be engaged during night shift, but of course with their consent. That is the catch there. Similarly, for making a worker to work overtime, no consent is currently required. If there is a requirement, then the worker can be asked to do overtime. work. But if he refuses, that can be considered as a misconduct also, and disciplinary action can be taken. But now I think consent of the worker is to be taken if he is to be asked to work overtime. And for a factory, I think it is necessary to appoint an occupier. The occupier shall be one of the directors of the board, right? But as per the code, one catches independent director. They cannot be nominated as occupier, right? It is possible, yes, one of the directors should be nominated, and that should be communicated to the authority concerned, but it cannot be the independent director as per the code, right? Earlier, that was not the situation, whether it is independent director or a whole-time director or whoever it is, anybody who is there in the board, they can be appointed as occupier. But now it is not possible. If it is independent director, they cannot be nominated as occupier for a factory. And safety officer is to be appointed in a factory if there are 1,000 or more workers. Welfare officer is to be appointed if there are 500 or more workers. Canteen is to be provided if there are 250 or more workers. All these numbers are coming down. So now, as per the code, safety officer is to be appointed if there are 500 or more workers. So instead of 1,000, 500. Welfare officer to be appointed if there are 250 or more workers instead of 500, current 500. So again, that is coming down. Canteen, instead of 250, if there are 100 or more workers, then the occupier shall provide a canteen in that factory. So again, this may increase the financial commitment to the employers. And worker in a factory, that person will become eligible for leave if that person has worked for 240 days in a continuous period of 12 months, right? At the rate of 1 day for 20 days of work performed. That is how it is. Now, instead of 240 days, it is coming down to 180 days, which means a worker, if he works for 180 days in a continuous period of 12 months, then that person will become eligible for leave. Again, same rate, at the rate of 1 day for every 20 days of work performed, to be availed in the subsequent year. So this will be advantageous for the workers, right? So this may again indirectly increase the financial commitment for the employers. Again, these are all certain common points applicable under Occupational Safety, Health and Working Conditions Code. Appointment order, hitherto it is not mandatory, right? Except in some of the state-specific Shops and Establishments Act, particularly Karnataka, Andhra, and some other northern states. Otherwise, it is not a mandate. Under Factories Act also, it is not a mandate. But now, as per the code, appointment order is to be issued to all the employees. And there will be a provision for a third-party audit. So this will be an independent body, not connected to government. Certain experts will be maybe some kind of panel will be formed with experts, and the audit is to be done through them, particularly for startup companies and other classes of companies as notified by the central government. So once they complete the audit, then they will submit the report to the company concerned, as well as for the inspectors having jurisdiction over that company. It is more for development purpose. And single registration. See, instead of doing multiple registrations under this code, Occupational Safety Code, Factories Act is there. So factory registration is to be done under Factories Act. Similarly, Contract Labor Act is there. Again, separate registration under Contract Labor Act is to be done. Interstate Migrant Workers Act is there. So there are, I think, 6 different registrations are to be done currently under different legislations. Now that is coming under the code. But instead of 6, now I think it is sufficient if we do 1 registration, 1 common registration instead of 6 existing registrations. And daily hours, weekly hours, and other working hours conditions shall be fixed by the appropriate government. And of course, the daily working hours cannot exceed 8 hours. That is fixed by the central government. Again, this is flexible, dynamic factor. So the appropriate governments are given powers to fix for their areas. Number of registers, returns, abstracts, notices, these are all consolidated. As far as possible, this is getting reduced. The volume is getting reduced. And when we say establishment, those establishments which have 10 or more workers, that will be considered as establishment. It is a common definition for all the 4 codes. And I think the registration is also common. If some registration is done under the Occupational Safety Code, then the registration is not required under Social Security Code. So maybe under Social Security, we have PF, we have ESI, and we have separate registrations for those items also. Now it may not be, no more be required. And definition for the term appropriate government. Now we have 4 definitions, right? 4 different legislations define the term appropriate government, but since now it is getting consolidated into one code, I think we have only common definition, and it is applicable to all the 13 areas, that is 13 existing legislations. And inspectors will be considered as inspectors cum facilitators. So they are supposed to facilitate in the first place. They may have to advise, guide both the employers as well as the workers about the compliance to be done and the various activities which will be applicable to their establishments. They need not, they cannot directly straight away take action against the employers. They may have to guide, they may have to facilitate, they may have to advise. Subsequently, even then, if the employer is not complying with the provisions, then I think he can go for action. And like we provide separate amenities for the women workers now, I think in future for transgenders also separate amenities ought to be provided as per the code. And yes, I think we have come to the end of occupational safety code. Now we move on to the third code, which is social security. So PF is falling under this code on social security. Again, we all know there is a ceiling of 15,000 for making the contributions under PF. But if we go through the definition of the term employee under section 226 of the code on social security, it says that the ceiling, even if it is prescribed through the schemes which are yet to be framed, that would not be applicable to pension. It will be applicable to EPS, that is employees pension scheme. It will be applicable to EDLI scheme, employees deposit linked insurance scheme. It will be applicable to ESI scheme, right? But it says that it may not be applicable to provident funds, right? Which means the employers may have to make contributions on the actual salary instead of restricting it to current 15,000, which is available under the current PF scheme. Of course, we may have to, it appears so, we may have to wait for the new scheme to be announced. And employees whose wages are more than the notified wage ceiling by the central government shall also be taken into account. So for determining the number of employees, so the ESI will be applicable if there are 10 or more employees. PF will be applicable if there are 20 or more employees. When we say 10 or 20, whether we need to consider all the employees or those people who are falling within, I mean, drawing a salary of the ceiling already prescribed. Say, for example, ESI. Should I consider only those people who are drawing less than 21,000? Or I need to count those people who are drawing more than 21,000 also? Similarly, with respect to PF, should I consider people who are drawing less than 15,000 alone, or should I consider those people who are drawing more than 15,000 for determining the applicability to the establishment, I'm saying, right? But now it is clarified. So for the purposes of determining the applicability of ESI and PF, right? So it is not just the coverable employees, even the non-coverable employees are also to be counted. Whether it is 10 or 20, I think we may have to check that. Then the term employee specifically excludes the apprentices engaged under the Apprentices Act. I'm not again very sure whether the apprentices engaged under the standing orders or the apprentices or trainees engaged on the policy of the company, they will be excluded, because currently they are all excluded for the purpose of PF. That position will continue, or they are to be treated as employees and they are to be covered under PF. Again, some clarity is required, or we may have to wait for the scheme under PF to be announced. And we all know that even if the threshold number is less than 20 for the purpose of PF, voluntary coverage is possible. Only for PF, voluntary coverage is possible. It is not there for ESI. But through the code, I think voluntary coverage provision is brought about for ESI also. So the threshold limit is going to be 10. So even if there are less than 10 employees, if majority of the employees are agreeing and the management is also agreeing, they can go for voluntary coverage. Similarly, whoever has gone for voluntary coverage, subsequently, if they want to withdraw, they can withdraw also. That provision is there. Then for plantations, currently ESI Act is not applicable. So they can now voluntarily cover their establishments under ESI. That possibility is there. And for industrial establishments which engage, which carry out the hazardous activities or the life-threatening activities, for them, irrespective of the threshold limit, even if there are only one employee, then the central government has got powers to extend the application of ESI Act to these establishments. But of course, for which notification is to be issued. Again, mines, currently ESA Act is not applicable, but through the courts, it is made applicable to mines also. And social security, again, presumption as to the accident. So when a person commutes between home and the place of work, if accident happens, then that will be considered as employment injury, unless and otherwise the contrary is proved. So the default position, the assumption is getting changed now. And if a particular employee who is ought to be covered under ESI but not covered, or even if covered but the case contributions in respect of that person is not paid, then he will not be entitled to receive benefits under ESI. But now ESI corporation can extend the benefits to that employee if he is otherwise eligible, and the ESI corporation can recover the cost. They say, I think it is a capitalized cost from the employer concerned, right? So that is possible. It is a new thing under the code. Then I think fixed term employment is now permitted. And so even if they have worked for less than 5 years, they will become entitled for gratuity, right? Similarly, working journalists, for them to become entitled for gratuity, it is not 5 years, which is the common thing which would be applicable for all the employees, but for them it is only 3 years. So in case of working journalists, if they work for 3 years continuously, then they will become entitled for payment of gratuity. And crutch, it is to be provided by the employer if there are 50 or more employees, and it does not say 50 or more women employees. So totally, if there are 50 or more employees, then the employer has to provide a crutch, irrespective of whether that establishment is covered under ESI or not. And the Employment Exchanges Act, currently it will be applicable if there are 20 or 25 or more employees, right? That is now coming down to 20. So it will now be called as career centers, right? Once the code is implemented, instead of employment exchanges, it will be called as career centers. And the employment information chapter 13, that will be applicable if there are 20 or more employees, not 25. And interestingly, we all know that almost 50 crore workers are there in India, of which only 10% is there in the organized sector. Rest 90%, around 45 crores are there in the unorganized workers. And for these unorganized workers, I think none of these legislations are applicable. Now, government is planning to extend the social security benefits to these workers also. I think there are different types of workers: gig workers, home-based workers, platform workers, self-employed workers, and wage workers. I have just given the sections alone. When you find time, please go through the definition of these different types of workers to understand it better. So the idea is they need to have proper Aadhaar card, Aadhaar number, and they may have to register themselves with the authority to be prescribed. Once that is done, then I think they will also become entitled for the social security benefits under the code on social security, which is now planned. Now I think the final code is on industrial relations. Again, mass casual leave. I think the industry is asking for treating mass casual leave also as strike, right? But it was not done so far. But through the code, I think that will be now treated as strike. So if more than 50% of the workers, if they go on leave, that would be treated as illegal strike. Similarly, if there is a willful go slow, then that will be treated as unfair labor practice on the part of the workers, so that the employer can take action against those people. And again, more popularly, we call it as Chapter 5B, which discusses about layoff, retrenchment, and closure of the establishment. Currently, this chapter will be applicable to factories, mines, and plantations if they have 100 or more workers. That 100 threshold limit is now getting increased to 300. I think this is the moot point, because of which, in fact, trade unions went on strike yesterday. Big strike was announced. I think that got clubbed with maybe the agriculture is also. This is one major change which is brought about. Then I think the government is planning to introduce workers reskilling fund, which means those people who are getting retrenched, right? So the idea is to reskill them so that their services can be used elsewhere. So for which, in fact, apart from paying the 15 days salary for every completed of service as compensation to the retrenched worker, the employer has to pay mere 15 days wages to this fund, right? So that is how it is planned. But of course, other sources can also be explored by the central government, which will be used for reskilling the retrenched workers. And again, Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. Currently, it will be applicable to establishments which engage 100 or more workers. That 100 is now going up to 300. So the Standing Orders Act will be applicable once the code gets implemented for those establishments which engage 300 or more, and it is not 100, right? Then fixed term employment, yes, employers have been asking for allowing them to go for flexible employment. It was not done so far. Now I think through the courts, now permission is given to engage fixed term employment, which means we can engage persons for a permanent job. For a permanent job, now we can engage people maybe once they get permanent in their services, then I think they will go up to 55 or 58 or 60 years of age, whatever the retirement age prescribed in that company, right? That is how it is. But now, even for a permanent job, we can engage people. Employers can engage people for, say, specific period of 5 years or 4 years or 3 years, 6 years, 7 years, whatever it is, right? So it is not necessary that they may have to carry the employees till they attain 55 years or 60 years or 58 years. So that is the kind of flexibility. That's it. But from the day one onwards, the fixed term employees will be treated as permanent employees, and they will be entitled for all the benefits which are applicable to permanent employees. Even if they are engaged only for 3 years, they will be entitled for gratuity. So at the time of termination, they have to be paid gratuity. It is to be calculated proportionately. For 3 years, it is to be done, right? Then mandatory recognition of trade union, that is also brought about now through the court. So I think this may become difficult for the employees, because there will be some body available for negotiating with the management, right? That is the idea. I think we have completed. Then I think I have just 4 or 5 slides more as a summary. I'll quickly summarize it. So what are the items in these codes which could be considered that these are all favorable to the employers? Again, mass casual leave, treating it as a strike, and willful go slow, which can be treated as unfair labor practice by the workers, and increase in threshold limit for factories. Instead of 10 and 20, it is becoming 20 and 40. Contract labor, instead of 20, it is becoming 50. For the applicability of Chapter 5B, retrenchment, layoff, and closure, instead of 100, it has become 300. Standing orders, for applicability, it is becoming 300 instead of 100, right? All these things, I think, that should help employers, particularly employers in MSMEs. Then permitting the employers to engage fixed term employees, that will be advantageous for the employers. Then permission to employ women employees during the night shift. Of course, their consent is required. Then common definitions. We all saw that whether it is the definition of the term wage or employee or worker or employer, it is going to be common for all the codes. So it will not be, we will not be having multiple definitions once the codes get implemented. And the recognition of electronic records, leveraging on technology, making online application, right? That should help the employers, and I think that will also put a check on the undue advantage taken by some of the stakeholders, right? And the reduction in the volume of number of transaction activities, number of registrations to be done, coming down, number of licenses to be taken, it is coming down, the number of statutory registers to be maintained, it is coming down. So all these should help the employers. Then deemed approval provisions. Take for example standing orders. If the draft standing orders are submitted, then the authority has to respond within 60 days. If it is not done, then on the 61st day it will be treated as approved. Automatically it is deemed as approved. And compounding of offense, I think that is favorable to the employer. So what are the items which are otherwise, so which are not favorable to the employers? Again, compulsory recognition of trade union. I think that could be that could become difficult for the employers. Then kind of subject, because the subject itself is law, so there will be an element of subjectivity always. So room for interpretation will be there. So there could be some difficulty which will continue in understanding the terminologies, right? Then continuing anomalies and increased financial commitment. I have separate slides. Again, when we say anomalies, we discuss the total remuneration, whether it is gross 1 or gross 2. I think that clarity should be given. Otherwise, it will be difficult for the employers to go ahead. Then the bonus chapter, whether for every accounting year, we may have to check whether it is applicable or not, or once it becomes applicable, then that will continue to apply or not. even if the threshold limit falls below 20. That clarity is not there. Then applicability of contract labor chapter. As I said, it is made applicable only to the manpower supply contractor. I'm not very sure why the job contractor is missed out under section 45. Then common license for contractors. Again, when we say contractor, it is only in relation to the establishment. So it presupposes existence of an establishment or the principal employer. So a contractor, even if he has operations in multiple states, he can have license only with respect to one establishment. If it is multiple establishments, it is not possible. Then common license for factories, contract labor, and BD and cigar establishment. That is also given, but factory license is to be obtained by the occupier, whereas the contract labor license is to be obtained by the contractor. So if it is going to be a common license, who will make the application? Whether it is contractor or it is the management which is supposed to get the license for contractor also. I think some clarity is required, otherwise it is not possible. Then apprentices, as I said, only the apprentices engaged under the Apprentices Act are excluded from the definition of the term employees. Whether other apprentices engaged under standing orders, engaged under the policy of the company, they are still to be treated as apprentices or employees. I think that clarity is required. So these are all certain items where clarity is required for the employers to ensure compliance. Then financial commitment, again PF, there is no ceiling as per section 226 of the code. It says that there will be no ceiling even if the scheme is announced. If that is there, then I think the financial commitment will go up for the employer. Then minimum wages, it will be applicable to all industries and all employees. And gratuity, irrespective of whether it is contract labor or fixed term employees, it is to be paid, whether it is gratuity or bonus. And amenities are to be provided by the principal employer straight away. Then crush is to be provided even if ESA is applicable, right? Then reduction in threshold limit for providing amenities, canteen, safety officer, welfare officer, all those threshold limit is coming down. Then leave eligibility, I think for the workers, it is coming down from 240 to 180. So that may indirectly increase the cost to the employer. Then contribution to the reskilling fund in case of retrenched workers. Then amenities to be provided separately for transgenders. Then enhanced penalty. All those things can increase the financial commitment to the employers. And these are all certain changes in the provisions which may lead to change in the process. As I said, it is within 7 days salary is to be paid, even if the company has more than 1,000 workers. So if they have maybe process of paying it before 10th day, I think they may have to now change their process. They have to bring it down to 7 days now. Similarly, full and final settlement, even in case of resignation, it is done within 2 days. Again, principal employer has to make the consideration that the contractor in turn has to pay the salary to his workers. Again, ceiling for bonus, both for eligibility and calculation, it is to be fixed by the appropriate government. So it can vary from one state to another state. And data availability, particularly with respect to interstate migrant workers, I think again the employers have to have a PACA process so that they have all the data, relevant data with respect to interstate migrant workers. And workers' consent for overtime. Hitherto, I think consent was not obtained from the workers if they are to be asked if they are to work overtime, right? But now consent is required, so they may have to come up with some process change. And these are all certain points which were, I think, clarified because of the code. Not treating regular employees of the contractor as contract workers, right? So permanent workers of the contractor, because most of the cases contractors themselves are employers now, right? So if they are carrying out their obligation by using the services of their regular employees, then I think those people will not be considered as contract workers. I think that's a very good clarification given through the code. Then gratuity clearly excluded from wages, right? Today there is a confusion, right? That is getting clear. Then the core activity, it is now defined, so it is also clear now. And for determining the threshold limit for ESA or PF, both coverable and non-coverable employees are to be counted, right? So that clarity is also given. I think we have come to the end. Once again, thank you so much to the Madurai branch of SARC for the opportunity given. I think whatever within the allotted time, I just thought I could summarize and give it to you as a gist. Thank you so much once again. It's over to you now.
Thank you, sir. Sir, we received a couple of questions, queries. I'll read out so that you can answer.
Yeah.
It is question received from Satish Kumar sir. Is NPS is an alternate for EPF? Will NPS statutory provisions of EPF? That is the question, sir.
No, NPS is not an alternative for EPF. It is in addition to EPF as far as private establishments are concerned. Right, but state government employees and central government employees, I think they are making it mandate for them.
Next question raised by Vimala madam. When there are branches in different states, then the rules are the same with respect to all the branches, or different as per the provisions of the different states?
It will be different. See, normally the act will give you the concept. The rules will give you the process or the procedure. So the concept will remain the same, but the procedure could vary from one state to another state, right? So that procedure is to be for, even if we have operations in different states, maybe in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, the procedure may vary and we may have to follow the different procedure for these two establishments separately.
That's all, sir. Only two questions we have received.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the excellent presentation. All the changes that occurred in labor codes in this limited time, 1.5 hours. That the session was very much informative for all of us. Thank you,
Okay.
sir. Yes.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So should you
moving,
require any further clarification, I think you can write it to me. I can respond to you, right? Okay. So I'll get excused. I think yes, you have another session now.
Yeah, session is fine.
Yeah. Thank you.
So before moving into the next session, we shall take a small break for 5 minutes. We shall join back by 6:40. Shall we start now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
It's fine for me.
Okay. We shall start the session. And I welcome our second session speaker, a very eminent speaker, C.A. Archana Jain ma'am, all along from Delhi. Welcome, ma'am. As I said earlier, there is a change, a small change in the speaker today. Unfortunately, Hani sir from Bangalore, he could not join with us today due to his unavoidable personal work. So we regret for the inconvenience caused. In fact, I spoke to C. Archana Jain ma'am yesterday only. In a very, very short period, she accepted our invitation without any hesitation. This shows her experience and capability in the area of GST. So thank you for accepting our invite, ma'am, in this very short period.
My honor.
In fact, we had a last session on GST was 1.5 months back on GST 9 and 9C. After that, we didn't have any sessions on GST. So ma'am will be covering on all the recent amendments that has taken place in GST. Without wasting much time, we shall move into the session. And now I request CA Jayachandran sir to give a brief introduction about our speaker today. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening. On behalf of Madurai branch SARC, I am introducing the speaker of next section, Ms. Archana Jain, ma'am. Ms. Archana Jain, ma'am, is a BCom graduate. She is a fellow chartered accountant who is the founder of Archana Jain and Co. Chartered Accountant. She has more than 9 years of experience in indirect taxation and has represented many reputed corporate houses and successfully handled various cases at the level of Commissioner Appeals and SISTAT. She is a GST visiting speaker at various seminars held at Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, PSG Chambers, and also guest speaker at National Institute of Fashion Technology, Delhi, Birla Institute of Technology, Noida. She is also a faculty at ICAI and trainer at National Academy of Customs, Indirect Taxes and Narcotics. She has experience of delivering her speech at more than 100 workshops, seminars, and certification courses offered by ICAI on GST. She has handled many GST refund cases and also GST trainer for Post and Telegraph Academy and for officers at GST office at Delhi. With this short introduction, I welcome Ms. Archana Jain, ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you for the humble introduction that you have given. I'm really blessed and honored. Thank you, Madurai branch. Thank you, Avinya ma'am, for giving me this wonderful opportunity to be in front of people who are attending from extreme corner of the country, south, and I'm sitting in Delhi. Thanks to this virtual facility that we are able to connect today at the ease of sitting at our own offices. So I hope everybody is doing well in this tough situation, COVID-19. We have celebrated the first birthday of COVID-19, but still it is called COVID-19 only. So with this, I know there has been many changes due to this COVID-19 situation and also due to many amendments that has come forward in GST. If you just see two important dates, one was 15th of October 2020, and number of notifications were issued pertaining to returns, new due dates, and again on 10th of November 2020, we have seen a plethora of notification that has been issued. By virtue of which new notification, we have seen some notification issued very recently, that is only on 15th of October only, that they were subsumed or they were superseded or they were assigned it. So we will be taking the journey of all these changes that has been brought into, let it be e-invoice, let it be the new format of returns, the new format that has been proposed by the name of quarterly returns and monthly payment. So we will be seeing all those changes and what all these notifications are talking about and what all things or what all important things that we have to be taking into consideration or where our clients will be needing our hand holding. So we will try to understand each and every aspect of these amendments. I'll also try to, depending upon the limitation of the time period, if the time permits, I will definitely try to touch in some important case laws also, like Mohit Minerals and Gujarat High Court judgment in relation to the inverted duty structure, and Madras High Court again on the same topic of inverted duty structure, where they have pronounced two opposite pronouncement, judicial pronouncement. So how they are going to affect the SSCs, how we can take the benefit of the judgment that has been in our favor. So let's begin. I'll just share. Am I eligible, allowed to share my screen?
Yes, ma'am. You are the co-host. You can share it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yes, it is visible.
It is visible?
Visible.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just see. Okay, so the notification number 74, 75, and 76, these were pertaining to the returns which were issued on 15th of October 2020. Out of these two notifications, 74 and 75 were superseded, again by virtue of notification number 83. So now we don't have to look into 74, 75, we have to only consider 83. And 76 again has been decided, where the new proposed GSTR 3B due dates were proposed, but now again that has been decided. One of the important notification, again 77/2020, by virtue of which it was decided that yes, whatever benefit was given in case of the threshold limit for the annual return for pertaining to the financial year 18-19, that has been extended to 19-20 also. That means up to the threshold of 2 crore, now there is no obligation to file the annual returns. Post 2 crore, up to 5 crore, it is an optional, and post 5 crore, it is the mandatory. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, ma'am. You are very well audible.
Okay, thank you. Then comes the notification number 78/2020, by virtue of which, with effect from 1st of April 2021, a very important change has been announced that yes, as of now, what is the requirement of mentioning HSN code on the tax invoices, that up to 1.5 crore, you don't have to mention anything. From above 1.5 crore up to 5 crore, you need to mention only 2 digit of HSN. Beyond 5 crore, you need to mention 4 digit of HSN. Now they have changed the provision. Now what they have asked you, now up to 5 crore, you need to mention 4 digit, and post 5 crore, you need to mention 6 digit HSN. And trust me, to have your classification done, like to have those 2 additional digits to be added on your invoice, is not that easy task. So, I'm sorry, I just forgot to silence my phone. So you have to mention 6 digits. So now this is one of the important aspect where our clients will be requiring our help, because it is not an easy format to just write down 6 digit. You need to study, you need to interpret your product, you need to interpret your supplies pertaining to that particular HSN category, because you can see that there may be various HSN rates within that one chapter or within that one subheading. And second important aspect is that now the question arises from where we have to see these 6 digit, because if you see the GST portal or if you see the rate notification, they have only mentioned 4 digit. In whole of the rate notification, as per GST law, they have only mentioned 4 digit. So for this 6 digit, you need to refer the custom tariff act, and from there only you need to adopt those HSN classification into your GST. So now with this new inception, even one more question of interpretation has been answered, where it was always said that how we have to interpret, because there has been we have seen plethora of double AR on the classification aspect, where there has been ambiguity between on which particular tariff heading that particular product or supply has to be classified. Because one of the important aspect that used to be given by the revenue was that under GST we have to consider only 4 digit, because there is a mandate of 4 digit only, but under custom there is a mandate of 8 digit. But now if you're switching over from 4 digit to 6 digit, that means you're adopting that HSN classification from custom, and you need to refer to that only. So this is one opportunity where all the professional will be getting some kind of opportunity, because the assessee has to work on the classification. He has to refer to the interpretation rules pertaining to those classification. that has been prescribed under SETA rules. So, and again for export and import, all kind of documents for export and import, there is a mandate requirement of mentioning the HSN code with that full 8-digit classification. So again, one more task that has to be mapped. Somebody is trying to admit.
Ma'am, I'll take care of that. Yeah. See, please concentrate.
Okay.
We get timer.
Okay. So next notification is 79/20, which talks about again Rule 80 sub Rule 3, that is the threshold for the audit. And again, now this has been again, whatever the relief was provided for 18-19 has been extended for 19-20 also. So again, for 19-20, there was an ambiguity that, okay, this year the threshold for audit is 5 crore, but next year again it will be 2 crore. No, now again for next year also, that means 19-20, it is again 5 crore only. So you have to see the threshold as 5 crore for financial year 19-20. Then comes notification number 80/2020, and with this notification, there has been an extension in the date of annual returns. That is, the due date for filing of the annual return pertaining to the financial year 2018-19 has been extended to 31st December 2020. One short answer I just need from all the attendees. What are you expecting? Is it going to be this is the last due date, or it is again going to be extended? Any answers?
I've released the audio control, madam. You can also check in the chat for the answers.
Yeah, I'm just seeing the chat only. Okay. Will be extended. Even I feel so. It will be extended. So, and even the form has been notified. So there has been not much or major changes in that form. Only minor amendment has been taken care of. Otherwise, it is more on the same form. Then comes the notification number 82/2020, again dated 10th of November 2020, by virtue of which there has been many amendments in the rule 59, Rule 60, Rule 61, and a new rule has been introduced also, which is called Rule 61A. So we will be seeing. So this is 13th amendment in the in the rules, and by virtue of this notification, Rule 59 has been amended. That means the form and the manner of furnishing the details of outward supplies. That means your GSTR1 or the monthly return, how you have to map these things. So now they have updated the rules, which says aggregate turnover exceeding 1.5 crore rupees in the preceding financial year or the current financial year. And now we have to be very, very careful with these words, because when e-invoicing was introduced, it was considered, it was supposed to be considered as a turnover has to be looked into previous financial year. But then when at the time of inception or at the time of implementation, what they have made changes, that they have made the word any added to that, and by virtue of that, many new assessees were in the trap of e-invoicing, because it says any financial year, and they have given the bracket of 3 years since the GST was implemented. So instead of the word previous year, they have said any previous year. So as of now, the words are these, and we don't know by the time this effective date is there, they may have some kind of changes in their mind, but as of now, it is the same. It is writing preceding financial year or the current financial year. So this is the whole way, and they have introduced a new invoice furnishing facility, taking into consideration Rule 36 sub Rule 4, because what is happening right now is whosoever has opted for the quarterly filing, the credit is not visible in my 2A, and by virtue of Rule 36 sub Rule 4, I'm denied that portion of my eligible credit, which is not reflected in 2A, because the other person has opted for quarterly return. And he doesn't have any other choice today, because if he has opted for quarterly returns, there is no option available on the portal by virtue of which he can submit the details of the invoices. So we have to file the return quarterly only, and there is no other option. So now they have taken care of this issue also, and now they are saying that okay, now we will be giving an option where you will be having this window open from 1st of the particular month up to 13th of that particular month, where you will be able to punch in the details of your outward supply, so that the other person is able to take the credit of the same, because the same will be reflected in his 2A. So, and that new facility will be known as Invoice Furnishing Facility, IF. So first quarter, now if you have opted for the quarterly return, so first month of the quarter, second month of the quarter, you will be furnishing the detail with this utility or with this facility. In the third month of that quarter, you don't need to update everything. So these two will be mapped automatically, and only GSTR1 for that, or the data pertaining to that third month has to be mapped in that GSTR1. Now the question arises, will I be able to upload the new invoices which are not uploaded in the first month or in the second month? So yes, there has to be some kind of mechanism, because error can happen anytime, and there can be a genuine error also. I may have received the invoices beyond 13th, or any other reason may have been there by virtue of which I would not have been able to upload the invoices. So again, there has to be some kind of mechanism where I should have the option where I can at least consolidatedly punch in all the details pertaining to that particular quarter. So it is said that, okay, if you have opted for these kind of option, then for 2 months you will be using the facility of IFF, and otherwise you will be using the GSTR1 and then only. Now comes the other option. If you have like at the end of the quarter, this quarter ending, GSTR1 will be there. So all the details, B2B, B2C, invoice, debit note, credit note, all has to be mapped accordingly. So invoice-wise detail has to be there, interstate, intrastate. It is more of the same texture or more of the same format as we are seeing right now. But the only difference will be that today we don't have any kind of mechanism where on monthly basis I will be able to upload the details. But now they are providing this detail that yes, I will be having an option of punching in all the details on the month-to-month basis. So consolidated detail has to be for the unregistered person, or in short, what we call it B2C trading or B2C information. Debit note, credit note for that particular month or for the previous month has to be taken care in that particular return. So for 2 months, you will be using IFF facility, and otherwise you will be using the GSTR 3B facility. Then whatever we have talked about outward supplies. Now the question arises, what we have to take care for filing in the detail of inward supplies. So Rule 60 says, with effect from 1st of January 2021, the invoice uploaded in IFF, that is Invoice Furnishing Facility, they will be appearing in your Part A of GSTR 2A, in your 4A, as well as in your 6A. So as per the assessee selected, they will be available for him in his respective returns, by virtue of which he will be able to take the credit, and there will not be any blockage or denial of the eligible ITC as per Rule 36 of Rule 4. Import of goods again has been mapped. Now they have again introduced, now there will be two different tabs, or there will be a clear distinction between import of goods, that means where you have imported from a place outside India and you have crossed the custom frontiers of India, and the another tab will be import from the SEZ, or from where, or in case where you have procured the goods from an SEZ supplier or an FTWZ. In that scenario also, you need to file a proper bill of entry, and everything the process that has been prescribed under SEZ has to be taken care of. But again, because that custom code is different from the custom code that pertains to SEZ, so as of now, the ICE gate has only been mapped. The detail that we are seeing in our GSTR 2A is for where the custom code is involved, not the SEZ code. So now they are taking care that yes, okay, there will be two different tabs, one for the proper custom port, where the proper custom port is involved, or where you are getting goods delivered from a place outside India, and other tab will be from where the procurement is made from an SEZ or FTWZ. So again, that will be shown in your Part D of the GSTR 2. So it is just what we have seen in that picture. I have just elaborated the same. So I'm just rushing through this slide. same auto population will be there. Similarly, if somebody is having an e-commerce operation, so similarly in form GSTR 8, he will be filing the thing, and that will be again auto populated in your part C of your GSTR 2A. Somebody who is deducting tax at source, or TDS is being deducted. So in that GSTR 7 will be there, and again that will be shown in your part C of your GSTR 2A. SEZ again will be shown in part D of GSTR 2A, and your even custom related import will be shown in part D of the GSTR 2A. Inward supplies, you can see in this form, it will be like with effect from 1st of January 2021, form GSTR 2B notified. They have already notified this form. So now there is a major question that has to be answered from the department side. How we have to map our input tax credit, whether we have to map with GSTR 2A or we have to map with GSTR 2B. This is a $1 million question, because as per rule or as per the legal statute, GSTR 2A is the legal document that has been yet notified and prescribed under GST law. 2B is nothing like 2B has been prescribed under GSTR law also, or GST law also. So for that, they need to amend the law, and they have to incorporate this new form. Then only I think the legal sanity of this particular form will be there. And as of now, whatever Rule 36 sub Rule 4 says, it talks about only on and only of GSTR 2A and not 2B. So made available, 2B will be made available to the respective taxpayer, and every month on monthly basis. And it is not a dynamic form, or it is not as dynamic as GSTR 2A, because GSTR 2A keeps on changing. The moment other person is filing the return, GSTR 2A is being updated. But GSTR 2B, if I talk about, it will get freezed on a particular date, and after that, any return that has been submitted after that will not be reflecting in that particular date downloaded 2B. So again, this is the static document and not as dynamic as GSTR 2A. So first month and second month of the quarter, they immediately after the due date of furnishing the IFF, the same will be uploaded in GSTR 2A as well as in 2B. In quarter ending, if I talk about, so they immediately after due date of furnishing the form GSTR 1 of that particular quarter, it will be updated. So that is 14th of the next month after the quarter ending, because now the new date will be 13th. So new date for GSTR 1 for the monthly has been 11th, and for the quarterly has been decided as 13th of the next immediately next month. So accordingly, this 2B and 2A will be updated also. So I hope everybody is with me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So whatever we have seen that in that picture only, that has been elaborated over here. So moving to the next slide. So with effect from 1st of January 2021, every registered person, in case who is already a monthly taxable person, or where he is required to file the return on monthly basis, there is no such change. Only the change has been brought in where the option has been availed for the quarterly filing option only. So monthly remains the same. Similarly, even if your threshold is below 5 crore, but still you have the option of obtaining for the monthly, and in that case again, same staggered manner, the way the dates has been prescribed remains the same only. Now they have introduced a new option where for the first 2 months, let's say I have opted for the quarterly return, and now for the first 2 months, I need to discharge my tax liability depending upon the quantum that has been prescribed under the notification and circular 143. So that has to be discharged through a new form by which is called PMT 06, and I have to discharge my liability by 25th of the month succeeding such month. Like for the first month, by 25th of the immediately next month. So similarly, I have to discharge my liability by way of utilizing by way of form 06. and they have prescribed the whole manner, they have prescribed the whole quantum, how I have to calculate the quantum, how much of amount has to be paid, and what are the benefits. So you have to really understand these new provision of quarterly return. And in case your SSC or your client is falling within that bracket, so I think we should do the cost analysis, and accordingly we should suggest them. So again, one more arena where we professionals will be getting some kind of new opportunity to handhold our clients. And in case any amount has been deposited by you by virtue of PMT06, so you're not eligible to utilize the same or to withdraw the same or to file the refund of the same until unless you have submitted the GSTR 3B for that particular quarter. That means first you have to discharge your liability, then only you will be able to utilize any residual balance or any balance that you want to withdraw or you want to get that refunded. But any other, all these provisions will only be applicable once you have already filed the GSTR 3B. So these are the same dates which already we have talked about or we are seeing. So this is the new aspect or the new quarterly filing return and monthly payment option, which has been introduced by virtue of notification number 84/2020, dated 10th of November 2020, by virtue of which a new Rule 61A has been introduced. So it says that person opting for quarterly GSTR 3B, the option of quarterly return is to be exercised electronically on the common portal. And yes, the common portal, there will be two options. One will be the auto migration of the assessee, and the other will be the window will be kept open from 5th of December to 31st of January 2021, where the particular assessee which fall under the category where they have the option of opting for this quarterly filing of return, that is quarterly 3B filing. So they will be having that option. They can opt in, and in case in future they don't want to be in that particular option, or let's say the threshold that has been prescribed under this option, they have crossed that total turnover threshold, so they will be auto what should I say, they will be auto migrated, or they will be auto opted out, or again they have a voluntarily option also where they can opt out on voluntary basis also in case they don't want to be in that particular format. So and that again, apart from this 5th of December until 31st January 2021, the window will always be kept open again from the first day of the second month of the preceding quarter till the last day of the first month of the quarter for which the option is being exercised. So again, this 3-month window will be there where he has that option in case he feels that, okay, now I should have opted for quarterly. So, okay, by the first day of the second month of the quarter, let's say, if we talk about April, May, June quarter, so first day of the second month of the preceding quarter. So that means from the 1st of May onwards till the last day of the first month of the quarter for which option has to be exercised. Like April, May, June, I have not opted the option, but from let's say June, July, August, July, August, September, I want to have this option. So my window will again be kept open from the first day of the second month of the preceding quarter, that means 1st of May, and that window will be kept open until 31st of July. So I still have the timeline where I can decide whether I need to be in this format or I need to be in the regular format. So once the option has been exercised, the taxpayer shall continue to furnish return. Registered person shall continue to furnish the return on the quarterly basis, future tax period, unless either he become ineligible for that particular category, or he himself opt out that okay, he want to do it on monthly basis only. So otherwise he can continue with that the same. So there are two other options also. Either he will be auto migrated out or he can opt out also. So all previous return due on the last day of exercising such option must have been furnished. So in case I want to furnish this option, then all my previous liability has to be clear. There should not be any outstanding liability. Otherwise, I will not be able to opt in for this particular option also. If turnover exceeds 5 crore, then again I will be automatically opted out. Then I cannot have the option of this quarterly 3B option. So this is the what should I say, a synopsis. In case a registered person whose aggregate turnover crosses 5 crore rupee during a quarter in the financial year shall not be eligible for this new option of quarterly basis monthly return and quarterly payment of the taxes from the very first month when he has crossed the threshold. And again, if a registered person furnished the 3B, so all his return has to be furnished. Let's say if I want to have that option of auto migration, or secondly, I want to have the option of where I can opt in for this option if I have not auto migrated, then all my return up to October 2020 should have been filed on or before 30th of November 2020. That means the compliance to file the return up to the month of October 2020 should have been taken care of and should have been met. Then only I will be able to opt for these options. Otherwise, there will be no such window open for me to opt for the option. So now we will see how the class of person has been prescribed or how they have differentiated. Aggregate turnover up to 1.5 crore from GSTR1 quarterly in the current financial year. Like I have already opted for quarterly return. My turnover is below 1.5 crore. So further also it will be deemed that, okay, I will be having the option of quarterly return only. In case today I have opted monthly because I have the option of opting for monthly also. So they will be deeming that again in future period also I will be having the option of monthly only, or I will select the option of monthly only. Now comes the category where the threshold is above 1.5 crore but below 5 crore. So new category has been carved out for this particular transaction or with it for this particular threshold of the turnover. Here I will have that option of quarterly returns. So here there will be an auto deemed option that they will be auto migrated in case I have opted for quarterly. And in case I have not opted for quarterly, then that window will be open for me. May change the default option electronically on the common portal. And I have told you the dates on which the portal will be open for this option will be 5th of December 2020, and it will be kept open until 31st of January 2021. So this will be known as quarterly return and monthly payment scheme. The change has been brought in section 39. So they have added one more proviso. They have given the power that condition and restrictions can be notified, indicate his preference for the furnishing of return on quarterly basis that we have already seen. Rule 62. So now they have added one more instruction. Instruction pertaining to GSTR 1, we know there are 17 instructions as of now. So they have added one more instruction. After 17th instruction, they have added 18th instruction, which says it will be mandatory to specify the number of digits of HSN code for goods or services that a class of registered person shall be required to mention as may be specified in the notification issued from time to time under the proviso of Rule 46. That means now what they have made compulsory 4-digit and 6-digit. And in case you are failing in providing the required information, then your return will be tagged as invalid return or a defective return. So you have to be very, very careful. So now there is a compulsory requirement of mentioning HSN also in your GSTR1, and otherwise it will be treated as your incomplete or a defective return. And because the same will be mapped with your e-waybill portal also and your e-invoicing portal also. And whatever data you're punching in your GSTR1, the threshold will be calculated, auto-calculated by the system only, whether you are falling in that 4-digit or in 6-digit. And if you're not able to comply the same, then this will going to be a different situation for all the taxpayers. So this is just a summary of the returns, how you have to map the invoice furnishing facility, month 1, month 2, before 13th only it will be open, like from 1st and 30 from 1st until 13th of the 13th date of that particular month it will be open. And after that you will not be able to make any changes in that particular month entry. Then next month it will be open for the next month, and in GSTR 1 in the 3rd month you will be able to map the other requirement. Similarly, for the payment, for the first month, you have to make payment before 25th, then your GSTR 3B. Similarly, for the monthly, the 22 or 24th or 20, whatever the date you are falling in, you have to take care of those things. So now if we see that, yes, we have to take care of many compliances, like all the professionals has to gear up themselves, and because there are many things to be taken care of, 1 to 11th we have to upload, then 12 to 13th we have to see the IFF facility, then 14th we have to send all the 2B to all our clients, 15th to 20th again the timeline to file 3B, then 25th challan PMT06. So apparently we will be working only on deadlines. Whole of the month will be covered in all those deadlines only. Now comes the procedure aspect, how you have to take care of the taxation, and that has been clearly prescribed under notification 85/2020. Again, that has been issued on 10th of November 2020. So today my return has to be mapped, and whenever I need to file 3B, so whatever I have declared as my liability, I cannot have a partially paid liability file option for my GSTR 3B. So in case I want to file my GSTR 3B, or in case I want to submit my GSTR 3B, so whole tax liability has to be discharged. But now in this new provision of quarterly return, monthly payment basis, you need to only deposit 35% of the tax liability. So that means deposit of an amount in the electronic cash ledger equivalent to 35% of the tax liability paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger in the return for the preceding quarter where the return is furnished quarterly. So now you have to map accordingly. The tax liability paid by debiting the electronic cash ledger in the return for the last month of the immediately preceding quarter where the return is furnished monthly. If the return is furnished monthly, then you have to see the details of immediately last month. In case they are furnished quarterly, then you have to see the whole data of the quarter. That means no such amount may be required to be deposited. Further, they have explained that, okay, 35% of whatever you have paid, let's say if I paid 100 rupee in the month of April, May, June, though for in the next month, you need to deposit at least 35 rupees in the month of July. And in case they have told again further, they have explained that, okay, in case of these situations, you will not be required to deposit any kind of amount in your cash ledger. When for the first month of that quarter, for the particular quarter, there you need to calculate where the balance in the electronic cash ledger or credit ledger is sufficient for your whatever liability you have shown. So your balance is sufficient to discharge your outward liability. In that case, you don't need to furnish anything in your cash ledger or additional in your cash ledger. For the second month of the quarter, where the balance in the electronic, and if you are talking of second month, let's say first month you have already deposited something. In second month, there is no outward supply. So in that case, you don't need anything to be paid. So again, you have to calculate your transaction or your threshold of depositing the money by way of PMT06 on monthly basis. Then only you will be able to understand the whole calculation, and then only you will be able to understand whether the option of opting for quarterly filing is beneficial to you or your client or not. Further, the registered person shall not be eligible for the special procedure unless he has furnished the return, obviously for the complete tax period, and complete tax period has been again explained in this particular notification, which talked about a complete tax period means a period in which the person is registered from the first day of the tax period till the last day of the tax period. So for the whole time period when he is a registered person, his registration is not cancelled or he has not suo moto surrendered his registration, then that complete tax period has to be taken into consideration. Again, notification 86, 76 has been rescinded. So 86 has only taken care of the new due dates. E-invoicing, again with effect from 1st of January 2021, where the turnover will be exceeded 100 crores, there also they will be making a mandate requirement of e-invoicing. 87 ITC 04, again the deadline has been further deferred, and I think we have not yet filed any ITC 04 since last 3 years, and the due date is only being extended. It has been again extended. Now comes this circular 143. So whatever we have seen, that whatever the requirement is there to file by way of PMT 06, how we have to calculate. There will be two options available to you for that monthly tax payment. One will be the fixed sum. That will be the 35% of the tax paid in cash in the preceding quarter, where the return was furnished quarterly, or the tax paid in cash in the last month of the immediate preceding quarter where the return was furnished monthly. So there will be a fixed amount. Whatever the amount has been deposited in last month or last quarter, you need to divide that particular amount into 3 parts, and first 35% in the first month, next 35% on the next second month, and whole liability to be discharged, rest balance to be discharged in third month. This is called fixed sum method. Then there is an other option also, which is called self-assessment method. So in self-assessment method, there will be a facility to ascertain ITC available in the month. An auto-drafted input tax credit statement will be made available in the form of GSTR 2B, and then you have to map how much is the tax liability, what will be your outward liability. In case there is nil tax liability, then you don't need to deposit anything. Then it has to be seen on a cumulative basis for the first month, second month of the quarter. If in both the months there will be there is a nil tax liability, then you are not required to deposit anything. And in the third month only, you have to see the whole scenario and you have to see the return as a whole. And that in that manner only you are required to discharge your liability. So again, this is just what we have just talked about. And in case again something has been left, any amount left after filing the GSTR 3B for that particular quarter, then that amount, whatever is balance in your credit ledger or in your cash ledger, that can be claimed as refund or may be used for any other purpose. Let's say there is an interest liability or penalty or some other thing, so you can transfer the amount from your cash ledger to the other heads also. Application of interest. So for registered person making payment of tax by opting fixed sum method, there will be no interest liability. When would be payable, no interest would be payable in case the tax due is paid in the first 2 months of the quarter by way of depositing auto-calculated fixed sum at the detail in previous paras above by due date. That means whatever amount has to be paid, you have already deposited, so there will be no tax liability. In other words, if while furnishing the return in GSTR 3B, it is found that in any or both of the first 2 months of the quarter, the tax liability net of available credit on the supplies received was higher than the amount paid in challan, then no interest. That means, let's say you already had 100 rupees in your cash credit ledger, and you have already deposited 25 rupees in your cash ledger, so 125 total available, but your outward liability, let's say, is only 110 rupees. So you have balance still left out in your credit or cash ledger, whatever the way you would be utilizing the same. So in that scenario, no interest would be charged because you don't need to add on anything extra. There is a sufficient balance. So provided the deposit system calculated amount for each of the first 2 months and discharge their entire liabilities for the quarter. That means whatever balance was required to be paid, they have already deposited in their credit in their cash ledger. And while calculating the whole scenario at the end of this third month or at the end of that particular quarter, if nothing else has to be taken, nothing else has to be deposited, and everything has been intactly in their credit ledger, cash ledger, and it is sufficient to discharge their outward liability, so then there will be no implication of interest, because now they have very, very clearly specified that interest will be applicable only on net basis, not on the gross. So if your net outward tax liability, whatever the differentiation is, a difference amount is there, only on that portion you need to pay interest. And in this scenario, when you have already deposited the sufficient amount, there will not be any tax or any interest liability on you. In case such payment of tax depositing the system calculated in the form of GSTR 6 is not done by due date, so 25th is the due date, and in case you have not done the same, then interest would be deposited, interest would be payable at the applicable rate, that is 18%, from the due date of furnishing PMT 06, that is 25th of that particular month, till the date you have made the payment, and on the net basis only. So not on the gross, on net basis only. Further, in case the person has opted for making a fixed sum method, so again in the form of GSTR 3B for the quarter is furnished beyond the due date, then again in case that is you have crossed the due date, then interest is applicable at the rate of 18% as per section 50 and on the net of ITC. So they have very clearly specified these words in the circular 143 only, so that there is no ambiguity left out. So now you need to discharge the interest only at the rate only on the net liability. Again, for the date previous to what they have made, the retrospective amendment is yet has been challenged in the courts. So we have to wait for the judicial pronouncement for the time period that has been kept open, where by virtue of proviso to section 50, there is an ambiguity or there is a different kind of interpretation taken by SSC and different kind of interpretation taken by the department. So now we have to wait for the judicial pronouncement. Otherwise, after the amendment has been made or after the final announcement, it is only on the net of ITC. That means your interest is applicable on net basis now. And again, on self-assessment method also, in case you have crossed the due date, then the interest is applicable on net of ITC. Late fees, as of now, no late fees has been prescribed, then, but again, we have to wait and watch how the things are going to fall in their place once the provisions are being implemented. These are some timeline for the erstwhile, because we have seen so many notices even for the service tax audits or the assessment or SCN has been issued or orders are coming. So please keep in mind the timelines for any period, April 14 up to September 14 is time barred, because the last due date was October 25, 2019. So any SCN or any order received after this time period, that can be challenged. Then time period October 14 to March 15, they have extended up to 31st December. Then April 15 to 2015 again. Otherwise, it would have become time barred in case if you have received some kind of information today or let's say in the month of December. But by virtue of the extension now, because for the assessee, the time limit has already got over on 31st October. But for the department, they have extended it again further by 2 months. And now the new extension or the new timeline for the department is 31st December 2020. For October 15 to March 16, there is no requirement of any kind of extension, because time they have sufficient time in their hand, and the time is up to April 2021. We have to see the cumulative implementation of Rule 36 sub Rule 4. This is again an amendment in the month of September. Whatever you have relaxed for the period of for the month of February, March, April, May, June, July, August 2020 by virtue of COVID-19, everything has to be mapped. Whatever additional ITC has been claimed has to be reversed with interest. In case there is a shortfall, should have been taken care by the return that has been submitted for the month of September, because again, by virtue of section 16 subsection 4, the September month return is the last due date for availing the credit for the financial year that has ended on, let's say, on 31st March 2020, the last due date to take all kind of benefits of ITC or what has been left out in taking care in your GST 3B has to be mapped in the return, final return for the month of September 2020, because that is the last date to get everything mapped for that particular financial year. Shortfall in purchase from registered dealer below 80%. This provision is only for RERA, because they have a mandate that for all kind of immovable property projects that are falling under the RERA Act, they need to procure the input and input services apart from cement. They have an option open that they can procure input and input services from an unregistered person, but not exceeding 20% of the total purchase. And in case of a cement, it has to be purchased 100% from the registered person only. And in case there is a shortfall in that limit that has been prescribed, so they need to pay the taxes at the prescribed rate under RCM. So this is the last date. 30th June was the last date. They would have there was a need to compile all the shortfall and everything pertaining to the RERA Act. Return 2 and 3 has been done away with. There is no future for 2 and 3. 2A, again, we have seen so many notices from the department as difference between 2A and your GSTR 3B. But as of now, department has not taken any action because they are still very busy in getting hold of the persons involved in fake invoices or circular trading. GSTR 9 separate column for the reconciliation as per 2A has been mapped. Now we see that particular thing also, that we have to map our annual return also as per GSTR 2A. So government admits that the data as per 2A is not static because it is dynamic, it keeps on changing. Rule 43A introduced but yet not notified, by virtue of which availment detail based on information uploaded by the vendor should have been made applicable. But they have by virtue of sideline or by bypassing this provision of 43A, they have introduced Rule 36(4), by virtue of which they have mapped what should have been mapped by this provision. But again, that is a sideline. So 36(4) has been introduced. I'm eligible to have the credit benefit of 110% of whatever is appearing in my GSTR 2A. New return format GSTR 2B has been released, and that has to be taken care and has to be mapped. Then static form, it is a static form. It freezes by 11th of next month. You are able to once you have downloaded on that particular timeline. Not a standalone basis of credit. Other condition of 16(4) also has to be satisfied. Like, I cannot just say that if something is appearing in my 2A or 2B, so I'm eligible to take the credit of the same. Again, at the same time, I need to comply with all the provision of section 16, subsection 4, 4 as well as section 16, subsection 2. A, B, C, D, all the condition has to be taken care of. Bifurcation of credit into two, available and not available. Not available means documents uploaded after the due date of section 16(4). Not available also by virtue of difference in place of supply and the place of registration of the supplier. That is in case of hotel, in case of section 12(8), in the matter of transportation of goods, where the goods are destined to a place outside India. By virtue of this language of that provision, even I'm not eligible to take the credit of that particular invoice, despite the fact that both the supplier and the recipient in that scenario belongs or they pertains to India only. There is no international transaction, but because the wording of the statute has been worded like that, that I am denied the eligible ITC in case of transportation of goods where the destination is outside India. Provide document-wise detail. Obviously, this credit will be available in case you have all the details mapped. Then B2B detail will be required. RCM, ISD, all these detail has been mapped in your GSTR 2B and 2A. So 2A will have the status of return filed by the vendor also. You will be seeing that return filed by, and date is also being mentioned when the return has been filed. Blocking of e-way bill by next month. If returns are not filed for the consecutive 2 tax periods, your e-way bill will be blocked. Quarterly filing return, we have just seen that provision. Refund application can be mapped or can take care of 2 different financial year also by virtue of circular number 136. They have 135. They have issued this clarification that yes, now the refund application can be filed for a period falling in 2 different financial year also. So the condition that was restricted in the Master Circular 125 was challenged, and Delhi High Court has given this judgment. And by virtue of this, in Pitambra books, in the matter of Pitambra books, this case was decided that yes, refund application can be filed falling in 2 different financial year also. Important judgment, Gujarat High Court, in the case of VKC footsteps, they have said that yes, refund of input services is eligible as per section 54 subsection 3 in case of inverted duty structure, because the wordings are very elaborately worded, and the intention of the department or an intention of the lawmaker or the legislature was to give you the benefit of all the kind of accumulation that pertains to that is there in your input tax credit ledger in case of an inverted duty supplies or inverted duty structure. On the same line, Madras High Court has given a judgment that yes, whatever Gujarat High Court has decided, no, it should not be read in that manner, and they have said no, refund of input tax credit on input services in case of inverted duty structure will not be eligible to be refunded. So these are 2 major landmark judgment. Again, in both the cases, in Gujarat, the department is under litigation at Apex Court. In Madras High Court, the assessee has gone to Apex Court. So we have to wait for the final verdict of the Apex Court. So as of now, wherever Gujarat High Court, the jurisdiction of Gujarat High Court is applicable, like in Gujarat, they can take the benefit of this notification. At least they can file the refund application, get it pending, get it at least filed or submitted, so that tomorrow, when the matter is decided in favor of assessee, they should not lose the benefit of the availment of the credit, because there is a timeline to avail the credit. Net or gross, 18%. There is no provision for levy of interest at the rate of 24%, because as per law, how the law has been worded in section 50, whatever the provision talks about 24% is in case where there is a mapping principle, when there is a flow of return like GSTR 2 and GSTR 3. In that scenario only, whatever, because 4210 will take you to 42.7, and by virtue of which, in case there is an addition or deletion because of this mapping of the data, then only 24% of rate is applicable. Otherwise, there is no such provision. So as of it is very clear that 18% rate is applicable, and that to a net. And proviso 50, we all know that has been retrospectively amended. So now it is worded accordingly that yes, interest will be levied on net of ITC. Material Recycling Association of India. In this case, it was decided that despite the fact there were services which were being considered as export of services, but by virtue of section 2 subsection 6 and one of the important condition, place of supply is outside India. So in this scenario, what they have said, in many of the judgment, if you will see, in case of intermediary, what mistake still they are finding in the pronouncement of the judgments or in the wording of those judgments is that they're still mapping the place of supply with the place of provision of the services, because POPS rule were a part of service tax. But if I talk about current scenario, in current scenario, section 13 of IGST is only talking of place of supply. And place of supply as a default rule is where the location of the supplier is. There is nowhere it is worded in the entire GST statute where I have to see the performance as a general rule. Only exclusion has been made out where I have to see that where the services are actually rendered or performed. But they are very different situation or unique situation where only I have to see the place of provision of supply. But in other normal cases, I only have to see the default rule where the location of the supplier is situated. That will be the place of supply. But again, they have, by virtue of the interpretation, they have said that no, the place of supply is not outside India. Hence, whatever the member are of the association promotes the business of foreign principal by connecting them to the foreign or local customer, and in turn, if they are receiving the services, so they are doing all kind of services here only, and they are not doing any kind of export because it is consumed here only. This is the word. This is their understanding in this whole judicial pronouncement, and accordingly they have said no, it will fall under the intermediary definition, and the place of supply will be India only, and hence there will be no benefit of export of services, despite the fact that remittances are received in foreign convertible currency. So again, the same has been challenged. Mohit Minerals, again, a big relief to all the SSCs. Now we don't have to worry about the GST on the ocean freight, on RCM, and that too on a presumption basis, because they have upheld the constitutional validity of the provision where they have levied notional amount of 5% on the 10% of the CIF value to be considered as freight, and on that 10% you need to pay 5% as RCM as a taxation on that freight portion. So again, that has been held invalid, and they have issued that yes, there is no need to give any kind of making any kind of payment of taxes on RCM basis on freight in case of import. Though applicant being the importer of the good is required to pay GST under RCM, which they were earlier asking, but now they have said no. Once the good has been subject for the custom duty, you don't need to pay anything. And otherwise also, the person who is importing the goods is importing on CIF basis. So I am not the person who is liable to pay the freight portion or the insurance portion. So who is the recipient? Who is liable to pay the consideration? So here I am not the recipient. I'm the person who is sitting outside India. He is taking those services. He is the ultimate recipient. So why should I be punished? Because RCM is only applicable on the recipient of the service. On these grounds only, this thing was. Now there has been a new issue that has been popping up. We have seen many DRI notices where they have said that any person who has availed the benefit of notification 77 and 78 under customs, that is procured the inputs under advance authorization or capital goods under EPCG schemes, and in that scenario, he is not eligible to make or take the benefit of Rule 96. That is, with payment of taxes, he cannot export because this will amount to double taxation. And now they have issued notices to many assessees that under Rule 96 sub Rule 10, they have challenged that yes, you have taken the double benefit, one from the custom aspect and one from the GST aspect. So you need to reverse the same, or you need to be penalized for the same. So now things are going, and we have to again wait how the things are going to settle. And all this started because there is a High Court judgment in case of Cosmos, where they have said, Cosmos Films India, that Rule 96 upheld the validity of Rule 96, and they have said that whatever amendment has been made, because this Rule 96 sub Rule 10 has been amended 4 times before this final version, and they have said that whatever implementation has done or whatever amendment has done, they have been done prospectively. It was never retrospectively amended. So whatever that has done before 23rd October 2017, you cannot touch that, and whatever is done after that only, that will be in the ambit or in the window of this notification or this whole process which DRA has already initiated. Then one important judgment is Supreme Court in the matter of UP versus K-Pans Fragrance Limited held that High Court should have referred assessee to the appropriate authority for complying with the procedure prescribed under GST Act in case of a writ, and he should not directly go and take the benefit of this writ provision in all the matters. So they have to go through the whole process which has been prescribed. So these were the important changes or the amendments that were brought in last 1 month or so, which I have tried to cover. And I'm opening the house for the query in case they have any or anything else pertaining to the amendment if they would like to ask.
So I have released the audio controls. Members can interact directly with the speakers if any queries there.
This is very danger provision. When no queries is there, either it is all clear or all clear.
I think, 1 second.
Most of the attendees are, I think, professionals.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So
I think we have not received any queries, ma'am. If you wish, you can, as you discussed in the initial beginning of the session, you can cover any case laws.
No, I have already covered the case laws, which I have already mentioned: the writ case law, the Cosmos case law, Mohit Mineral case law, BKC, Madras High Court, and even in South, because I have few clients in Madurai. I have traveled to Madurai also this January 2020 was my last travel to Madurai only. So there, I think we have received many notices pertaining to the excise regime, where the benefit of notification 29 and 30 has been availed. And in case you are availing the refund mechanism, refund and rebate under Rule 18 and Rule 19. So now again, there is an ambiguity because of the Madras High Court judgment in Raghav Industries matter, where they have said that, yes, you are not eligible for both the benefits. So in case anybody is facing such kind of problem, so again, they can contact us, or they can, contact me over the mail, because we are handling many cases of notification pertaining to the excise regime and service tax regime and transitional credit issues also, where they have said that 140, you should have taken the option of 140 subsection 1 and not 140 subsection 3. In case your goods were exempted earlier, now they are becoming taxable. Second important issue which I have seen in textile industry is regarding the lapsing of credit in case of inverted duty structure. I have also seen many notices that, yes, in case of inverted duty structure, we have to get a bit struggle to get our refund amount, because otherwise they say the same rate of tax, they are not considering it as an inverted duty structure. But by virtue of Circular 79 and Circular 125, they have very, very clearly mentioned that even if my inward supplies bear the same rate of tax as my outward supply, But still, in case there is an accumulation because of this inverted duty structure, that means I may have some supplies of 5%, 12%, 18%. My outward supply may be 5%, but still I have that accumulation because 12 and 18% is also there. So I am eligible for the inverted duty structure, and I have to include both side 5% also. That means whatever ITC that I have availed on at the rate of 5% or at the rate of the same rate of my outward supplies has to be considered in my calculation of refund as per Rule 89 sub Rule 5. So these are few important things that are being taken care. MSME issues are there, how you have to file the form, how you have to calculate the investment aspect, because the notification issued in the year 2006 on 5th of October has been decided. And now you have to be very clear that yes, WDV has to be considered, because now they have mapped your ITR. So whatever WDV you have taken in your 18-19 return has to be mapped while filing MSME certificate form. And even if you have availed the MSME certificate earlier, before this 26th of June 2020, still you need to require to get yourself registered again on the new portal of MSME. And they have given the entire list on the MSME portal only, which government side you need to go and enroll yourself before 31st March 2021. And there is no fees also. So please kindly be aware of the fake websites, because they have same wording, same line name, and as well as the same structure also on their website. Please be aware of all those fake websites, and kindly go and log in only on the genuine government portal, so that your certificate is valid and you don't have to pay anything. And please do that also before 31st March 2021. Otherwise, the benefit of MSME will be withdrawn in case you are not uploaded the same.
Okay, I think since we didn't receive any queries, we shall conclude the session. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the excellent coverage on the recent amendments in the GST, and especially in this short invite period, ma'am. Thank you so much for that, and thank you for the valuable inputs which you have given to us. Thank you once again.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much, and thank you to whole Madurai branch and SIRC. They have given me this wonderful opportunity. It was my honor. Thank you so much. Stay blessed, safe to all. Take care.
Thank you.